The Return of the Devil. Okay, I'm trying to figure out which side I want to be on. Okay, I want to be on this side. I look like a Thundercat. Okay, show Carlos now. Oh, them colors are so great.
Oh yeah, we good.
Oh, those colors are so good.
Thanks, Marina.
All right, audio check on Los.
Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Good? Yeah, good. I will say this, Los. I can't believe I've known you for this long, and my brain doesn't sit with the fact that you were signed to the NFL. You're such an obvious athlete. You very much look like you are somebody's team with tight booty in the air, running with the ball and things. Clearly, I'm good at sports ball, y'all. But like, the fact that you're so obviously the guy who would be signed to an NFL contract, but to me, you're like my friend. You're fit Buddha.
Yeah, I actually forget that I play football.
Because you don't act like it.
I don't. I have this thing where I'm just like, you know what? Everything that I do and I accomplish, I'm supposed to. I expect it. So I don't feel this need to
I love it.
But it's also like, hey, celebrate yourself too. That's something
Yeah.
that I've learned. Like, hey, the thing that you've done and you've worked on, you put a lot of it. Like, it's not some easy task for somebody to go and do. So sometimes I forget some of the things that I've done.
Did you want to be in the NFL, or were you just so naturally talented you got sucked into it?
Yeah, I had some family members to take care of, but there was a huge responsibility placed on my shoulders.
Yeah.
So there's this pressure to take care of everybody. That's why a lot of athletes, go broke. So the goal was go to school, go to college for 3 years, leave early, take care of my family. It didn't happen that way.
What happened after you signed the contract? And you signed to Tampa?
Tampa Bay in 2005. So crazy. So every year in college, I had a different coach. Every year, so so you need consistency.
Yeah, that
so
sounds
when
a
NFL
little
teams
wild.
come in, like if you've only been with a coach a year, they don't really know you, and the new coaches coming in, they only care about their guys who they have actual equity with moving forward.
Right.
So for me, like I signed a rookie free agent contract, so they cut somebody to sign me. The odds of me actually making the team were very low.
Oh, that's amazing.
I had 2 days to prove myself. And then I go in. And so then the bar is really high. So I have to do more. If a guy that gets drafted gets 4 interceptions throughout the camp, I have to get 8. So everything, and it's a numbers game.
It's giving very big Colin Kaepernick. You were fighting the man, huh?
No, I was. But I'm so humble. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot. It wasn't ability. I can play with those guys. A lot of it is business and numbers. That's it.
Oh.
When guys get drafted, they make money.
So you were collateral damage.
Yeah, pretty much. Your body. If somebody gets hurt, they already know that they're probably not going to keep you.
Here's the thing that's so interesting about you saying you're a body, and I love that I'm speaking to an alpha male, black man, cis head, blah, blah, blah. All the things that y'all got to hear to think that the things might make sense. But like, you're also very emotionally intelligent, and you're also a coach as well. And I've always thought the NFL was the modern day plantation. I've always thought that when you look at the way that they're literally trading off black male bodies like cattle, if it's giving chattel slavery vibes. Even though I understand those who are in love with the game, I can still understand the love of the game and respect those who have mastered the game, while still calling a thing by its name and looking at the framework is clearly still very plantation style. How did it feel when it hits you that you're this intelligent black man who's educated, but you're just being seen as a meat sack, as like a body of blackness and power and all that good stuff, that Mandingo shit?
Are you into sports? Would you call yourself a sports?
I'm from Boston, so I have to know enough.
Boston, it just came up. Boston.
I'm from Boston. I'm from Boston, so even those of us who don't like sports ball, as I call all we have to know a little bit of something because our teams talk too much shit. So I have to be able to fight and advocate for myself.
It's interesting that you as a woman would understand or see that, because it is, right?
Yeah.
But then there's the actual draft. The fact that they call it a draft.
It's giving on the selling block in the plantation.
How fast are you? How much weight do you lift? How high do you jump?
You're a buck.
People's value can go up. Some people's value can go down based on how you test.
Does that not fuck with you as an educated black man? Like, you're literally doing a kunta kinte for an NFL contract. Like, emotionally, does that not fuck with you?
But that's the goal. That's what we've been working for our whole lives. A lot of us, for some guys, that's the only thing.
So you just associate
we don't
from the
see
meaning
anything
of it.
past the NFL. And I'll give you this analogy. So there was a knock against Notre Dame players, because that's why I went to school. The knock on us was that
Pause. This subtle flex. Not only did Fit Buddha, aka my friend Carlos, Gets signed to an NFL contract. He went to Notre Dame. So I just need y'all to understand that this man is casually just saying things. I love it when you're modest friend. When me and Barack Obama had tea last week, he said, you know what, you magical Negro?
It's just normal. I'm supposed to do it.
Okay, that's fine, friend. But go ahead. I just wanted to flex with my friend.
There was a knock on Notre Dame players because of the degree. It's a global school. It's iconic. So they would knock us because they didn't feel like we would be focused on football because we can make money outside of it.
Oh, they thought you were nerds.
Yeah, so they want you to always be dedicated to just football, nothing else outside of football. You know the kid Myron Rowe. He was first round draft pick, highly selected drafted guy, and he dropped out of football to go to with Oxford. What's the school?
Yeah, I think that's one in England, right?
Yeah, the one rarely. He's a neurosurgeon now.
Oh my heavens!
No team would pick him up.
So because he can study CTE.
But
Let me stop.
But no, it's that. But he's
true.
a guy that can go into in the locker room and educate people.
Yep. And that's dangerous to the plantation.
That is dangerous. We need you to be focused. So how is it that you can give guys who domestic violence, abuse, all these things, they can get second chances, but a guy who's supposed to be the symbolic of the type of NFL player that you would want representing your team, the NFL, why doesn't he get a shot?
Because according to what you're outlining, they want people who are akin to sheep, and he sounds like a shepherd.
So when you look at Colin Kaepernick,
he's another shepherd.
He woke people up like, oh, what? So now we got rights. Now we can say this. Now we can do this.
Do you know who I do know about when it comes to the sports ball? I'm not going to lust over him because I did the math and he's young enough to be my child. Jalen Hurts with his fine tenderoni self. Carlos, what? We gonna talk about, if I have somebody who has ties to the NFL sitting next to me, I want to talk about Jalen Hurts. I'm gonna do it respectfully because he's young enough to be my child.
Blue. After he won the Super Bowl MVP, I looked at him and I could not help but think about the conversation that we had. You remind me of if you and your dad and Jalen Hurts, he would be if the human evolution.
Jalen Hurts should be your son.
And I laughed.
Yeah,
and I was like, damn.
You look like him.
And I'm about to cut this off. I'm about to go.
I found y'all sister because there's a look it up. Her name is Aaliyah's Face. She's a influencer. Put Aaliyah's Face, but Aaliyah and Face together. Aaliyah's Face influencer. She looks like if we put a wig on you, Carlos, and then put another wig on Jalen Hurts. You, Jalen Hurts, and Aaliyah's Face all come from the same tribe of what the fuck, and I love that for y'all. Okay, here while you're looking up Aaliyah's Face, I almost sent you a picture of her because it's actually wild. Actually, I might have it on my phone. What I'm doing is watch the entire audience now fall in love with Aaliyah's Face because I've just said it. Here it goes. Look at her.
Oh, wow.
Carlos, this is you with a wig on. It's also Jalen Hurts with a wig on. Tell me that's not him in drag. Gorgeous girl. Okay, you're all beautiful caramel people.
She could.
Carlos, this literally looks like.
She could.
That's you. I found your daughter. Okay,
what's,
we're doing a very special Maury's episode.
I imagine her.
I mean, she exists and she's a millionaire, so be happy. She lives in Dubai and New York. So yes, Google her. When I saw Jalen Hurts, I was like, okay, he's fine. He's 90s, fine. He's cute. He's looking like Carlos' son. This is good for him. But what I love about him is, I think there's a gravity to him that people don't necessarily expect because he's an NFL player who's a star right now, who's that attractive, right? And so when you look, there was an article that my friend Bridget, Bridget and I were talking about him today. And in the article, she said, Jalen Hurts knows who he is and whose he is. He belongs to the black community. And there's a power in that when you're speaking of the plantation, watching all the house Negroes with their white mothers and their black fathers reenacting what feels like race play. Even my biracial friends have agreed with this take, so I'm not being problematic. I'm just calling a thing by its name. But when you see this thing of them whitewashing the Bucks, the whitewashing the black bodies that have been brought into the NFL. So if you see a black man in the NFL, you immediately assume he has a non-black girlfriend. You're lucky if she's Afro-Latina, but you immediately assume she's not black in any kind of presentation or cultural identity. And then you see Jalen Hurts looking like something straight out of Living Single circa 95, wearing the exact same outfit that Shamar wore on Soul Train Music Awards, with a beautiful black woman who's still gorgeous and stunning and a specimen, but she actually looked like she might go to the cookout because she belongs there. And he's that cultured and that restrained. And then you see that video of him that ESPN showed where he's sitting on the floor smoking a cigar, listening to like Al Green, just staring at his trophy and living in the moment. I didn't know how to live in the moment at 26.
Do you know his story?
No, that's why I'm like, who the fuck is Jalen Hurts? Because now I'm like, he has depth to him.
So if you know the University of Alabama, Nick Saban, one of the probably over the past 10 to 15 years, one of the most dominant programs. He's probably the GOAT of all coaches. Jalen Hurts, if he was a starter, probably one of the winning quarterbacks in Alabama history, lost his position to a younger guy coming in.
Oh.
What he did, what was commendable, he could have easily transferred and left, but he made a promise, if I'm correct, that he was going to graduate. He graduated. They ended up winning a chip. I think some part of that run, the quarterback got injured. He came in and made a key play, right? And was part of the reason why they won. He had every right to be upset.
Oh, so he's one of those.
3-year starter. I'm not talking about some guy who was 3-year starter. Probably only maybe lost 1 or 2 games. Loses. He gets injured. That's what happened. He gets injured. The quarterback comes in, never looks back. The quarterback now is Tua, the quarterback of the Dolphins. Mm-hmm. He leaves. He gets his degree. He leaves, goes to Oklahoma, has a great year. And then they told him, you're never going to be a quarterback in this league.
Why?
They told him for some reason, because he was a winning, he just didn't meet, for whatever reason.
Was he not enough of a peacock? Because I know that the NFL loves personalities. They love to create franchises around big, shiny personalities, like a Kelsey or...
Well, he didn't have he won. He didn't have the hype or the numbers that some of these guys like Shador Sanders, some guys have. He didn't have it, but he
wasn't
won.
Flashy. He was just
but
consistently
he won.
good.
He was a leader and he won.
Yeah.
They told him, and he stood on his morals. No, I'm going to be a quarterback in this league. And here we are.
Oh, my God. Sitting on the floor
NFL
with your trophy, smoking a cigar.
Super Bowl MVP.
Especially considering it's the revenge, considering what happened 2 years ago. So it's interesting because the thing about the Chiefs, and I'm just going to say this, the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce of it all, and the way that the industry works, especially when it comes to sports as an entertainment industry, because we don't talk enough about how sports is entertainment industry, right? When there's calls that can be made on either side, but one side is more marketable. You see what I'm saying? I'm not going to say rigged because I don't have that kind of money, but when there's certain subjective plays that can be called in certain ways and certain franchises would have a better story, like a three-peat, to sell to the advertisers, things tend to waffle a little bit in the wrong direction. I'm from New England. I know what the Patriots be doing. I love where I come from, and we be fucking with the balls. I know. I understand. We play dirty.
You ain't trying. That's the saying.
Exactly. So I come from New England where I know we cheat, and what? We still won. So I'm not being puritanical. I'm just saying the only way I think they could have won is if a bunch of Philly niggas beat up everybody, which is what I saw on the screen. I don't know much about sports ball, but a bunch of Philly niggas just showed up and beat everybody up. Is that what you saw? Because that's what I saw.
On paper, Philly was the better team.
Yeah.
But just from a pure football
But belt
standpoint,
to ass last night.
But what I would say with them, like, I understand the calls and everything. There is a lot of, look, they went to Pat Riley and asked to use the rights to three-peat.
That's how cocky they got.
When you taking pictures with...
So they were Drake. You're saying that, what I'm hearing, Carlos, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying that the Chiefs were Drake and the Philadelphia was Kendrick, and we saw 2 ass whoopings last night? Is that what you're saying, Carlos?
The irony.
We should do a sports show.
The irony that it happened in New Orleans. It
where
happened
all
at the
the
hands of
ancestors
Philadelphia.
live. Yeah, it's
and
black
then
as
the
fuck.
halftime performance that we...
Is a Compton
the irony
nigga
that it happens
who chose
there.
violence. Let me tell you, the Super Bowl felt like it was sponsored by Harriet Tubman because it was the blackest ass whooping I've seen since the Alabama riverboat. Like, literally, Donald Trump said, I'm going to federally not recognize Black History Month, and then showed up to the blackest part of America where 10,000 Haitian slaves ran to after the revolution, where they killed all the white folks. New Orleans is not where you go to do white fuckery. Like, it's not. The blood in New Orleans is steeped in my people, right? I know my history. Mm-hmm. So all that magical hoodoo blood, you show up during the Black History Month, you try to get rid of in the blackest part of American witchery. And everybody you took a picture with was crying that night in the locker room because they lost. R.I.P. to the Mahomes family's integrity, if you ever had any.
It was
embarrassing, Carlos.
No,
the fact that I know that it was embarrassing and I barely know football.
It was what happens with sports is along the way to a championship run, the Super Bowl, you got to have some luck. They had a
Yes.
lot of luck. That's a part of it.
Who had the luck?
The Chiefs.
Oh,
a lot of
okay.
it. There are some games. There's a lot of luck. Just anybody who gets to that point, you had some plays that went this way. They've had probably more plays that went their way than.
I think that's more
other
than luck.
people.
I think that's phone calls being made.
Now we won't get in that. There are theories about people saying things being rigged and this, that, and the fourth. The
Rigged
money
dish.
involved.
It's like Kenya Bears.
Yeah.
Rigged dish.
But I think as a team, what I told my friend, I said, look, Philadelphia has the better team. You can't give them chances. You can't give them openings.
They're hungry.
You can't give them openings to where all it takes, what play can I take and change how the game goes?
Yeah.
You're going to have to go and do exactly what they did, beat their ass. You're going to have to go and take it. Literally going to have, and that's exactly what they did. You probably don't know football. As a football, they rushed 4. Go watch some clips on YouTube. On the football, when you can rush 4 and get protection on 6 offensive linemen, and you don't have to blitz, I don't care who you are. You can be God. You're not going to score. It's 7 guys on 4.
So what I heard was goonery. Goon shit happened. Philly had hands.
No, Blue,
Philly
when
had
I was
hands.
watching that
That's
game,
look, for those who don't understand sports ball, Carlos just said when Harriet Tubman, okay, the spirit of Sacagawea, Nat King Cole, maybe every nigga you can think of who ever been pissed off. I think Quincy Jones was in the mix. When everybody comes together to whoop ass because they're mad at Donald Trump, and you are taking pictures of Donald Trump.
It was extra motivation.
It was an ancestral ass whooping. It was ancestral.
There was something, Blue.
There was something in the air.
When I saw that D line, the way they pushed through those, it was something.
That was the hands of
else.
time. Those were our ancestors. That was the hands of
They
our
all showed up, and I was and there was nothing. And so when you start looking at the body language of a team, they knew.
Oh yeah.
I look at they knew.
And I knew
There's
some
nothing-
people. Shout out to my friend Brad. My friend Brad, his brother worked for the Chiefs. He's a football player. He plays the sports ball. And I haven't been to his page because I don't want to see what he's posted. He's probably crying today. I mean, there were some good blacks on the wrong side of history. It's just,
Blue.
the Chiefs were the wrong side of history. There was a couple good blacks on the other team, but ancestrally speaking, we needed to whoop the ass of the team that was sponsored by Trump. To me, that was my inauguration last night. And then let's talk about the halftime show, because I feel like I've done enough sports ball talking. I was doing that so we wouldn't lose all the men who are here for Carlos. Okay, so now that we've talked about the sports ball, let's get into the shit.
Boy, was it.
On a scale of 1 to Nino Brown, how violent was Kendrick last night in the Super Bowl with his imagery?
Do we have to put a number to it?
Nino Brown. New Jack City kids. Look that up.
So we'll talk. Yeah, Nino Brown. He was.
The violence, the cerebral goonery of Kendrick Lamar is one that inspires and concerns me simultaneously. And I have realized that black men are infighting right now. Black women in the 90s, we had Brandy versus Monica. Y'all have Kendrick versus Drake, where Kendrick is clearly Monica, the goon. We call her Goonica. I mean, that's her nickname. And Brandy, we love you. You're clearly Drake. You just want to be down. So, as a black man who I see as a Kendrick, I hope that you self-identify as one.
I have an interesting story. I do.
You meditate and you're capable of violence. I mean, it's pretty on the nose, friend.
But that's why I meditate.
Yeah, that's why Kendrick meditates.
That's why
we all knew Kendrick was a serial killer when he was in a full tracksuit in the hot California sun doing push-ups on cinder blocks. Only killers do stuff like that. And Carlos, right? That's some killer activity. When a nigga's too zen and his body doesn't understand heat, you are in trouble.
And he's quiet.
Goons,
he doesn't say
sniper
anything,
energy.
But when he talks, it cuts. It pierces.
'Cause he means it.
You listen. He only speaks. When I say something, you're going to listen. He has a way of creating a stickiness to the things. And I watched the video.
That stickiness is called intellect, boys and girls. If you want to speak in a way that's sticky, just make sense. Just be intellectually sound.
What's his
I hate that that's considered like a thing now. Like, oh my God. Like, you know how Twitter always has those little things that fact check you under your tweets? Mm-hmm. I was talking to Bridget. I was like, I think I got shadow banned on Twitter because they couldn't put those on my tweets. I was researching everything I was saying, so it was inflammatory, but it was also fucking true. And so Twitter
they don't care about that, Blue. They don't care.
Yeah, there's no box for me. I meant that shit, and it actually happened that way. So they just shadow banned me. And I feel like that's what it's like when you're a Kendrick without the right support. You know you're going to piss off the system just by being, like, sound, intellectually sound. Being intellectually sound when misinformation is probably the most commodified export coming out of America right now is misinformation, thanks to the commander-in-chief. Being someone who's factually sound and therefore incapable of being manipulated mentally makes you dangerous.
And that's why he has to do it through his art.
His art is
the amount of thought that goes into his art. And I don't think, look, there were some things that I missed, but what I took from it, Samuel L. Jackson being Uncle Sam.
Amazing.
The personification, the symbolism of what government or what it is, people. So it was double-sided to me.
The black bodies, black men in do-rags and head wraps and hoodies symbolizing the American flag, personifying.
And
he
then
had
the
black
division
men
within the American flag.
Yeah,
and
like
then
left versus
I'm
west.
going to do what it is that I feel. I'm going to say, you're not going to be able to tell me how I should talk, what I should do, how calm I should be.
While I'm standing in
While
the literal
I'm standing
divide. I'm standing in the divide.
But then on the other side, it's black people telling Kendrick, don't do not like us. I don't think you should do. It's the people who stay calm. Don't
The house
just
Negroes.
keep.
Mm-hmm.
So it
Don't
was,
piss off massa.
Like it was double-sided for me, and it was great. And I was just like, because I tried to enjoy it just for then the field being a prison yard.
Yeah, it was, and then to be a controller for a game too at the same time because he was controlling the game.
Like it's the amount of thought and what goes on in his head. It takes me back to the 90s where people actually valued videos. Mm-hmm. There was a budget, a huge budget
valued
for
artistry.
But yeah, and now he's bringing that back. Now people are actually interested in watching. What did he do? What did he do? I just wanted to enjoy it. And then I went back and I'm like, oh, I'm sure there's other things in there. Even I thought of you today. I don't know if you heard this one. Supposedly somebody said, if you remember the part where the guy was laying on top of the light, that's the card for hangman, the hangman. If you look at the shadow.
Oh my gosh. Kendrick.
And I thought of I don't think people he's operating at it. And look,
I feel seen. I love it. I love it when when neurodivergent nerds just nerd the fuck out and show y'all the superpower.
But a lot of people, it goes over their head, and it's like, why isn't that celebrated? Why isn't that appreciated?
The answer is Drake. So Kendrick Lamar is quite, in my not so humble opinion, Kendrick Lamar is literally the antidote for the sedative that Drake. Yeah, no, he's the antidote to what Drake sold us.
For sure.
Drake spent 15 years while being sponsored by very, very big people who make more money than my entire bloodline will probably ever make. Very powerful machines were helping Drake sedate the audience. The antidote is the ugly truth. So Kendrick literally represents the antidote. The only way to wake you up from a trance is to turn the fucking lights on. Turn the TV off and turn the lights on. And then look at the harshness of your reality under all these fluorescents. So Kendrick, just by being educated, he's the antidote. That's why we're all waking up like, wait, I choose violence too. The fuck? What's happening? How did we get here? Because we're going through an epidemic where Drake, unfortunately, is like the sweetheart that we all loved because black women used to be his key demographic until he became a black incel and became part of popularizing black incel culture in a way that I think people don't talk about enough. That black man, because we tell all black boys, if you're rich enough and light-skinned enough and make enough money and successful enough and all the famous people want to be your friend, you will be happy. Drake did all that and he was still unhappy because the premise was a lie. Without working on yourself internally, money doesn't mean shit. It frees you up to find out what makes you happy, but money alone, the happiness is sold separately. Drake became disenchanted when he had everything he ever wanted, but because he didn't work on his father wounds, because he didn't work on all his issues with his mother and women in general, he kept fumbling women who found their forever elsewhere. Yeah. I think that's why he was a menace, because he realized that he got everything he wanted at the top of the mountain and he was still empty on the inside.
Yeah, it's in the music. And I always, if you actually go back and listen to the music, every major artist has an album that's defining. Jay-Z's 444. Nas, you can look at whether it's Heart King's Disease, or there's a couple where you just hear the growth in the music. Every album that Kendrick has done, you've seen. I watched a video of one of his OGs says every album is just Kendrick working on himself.
Yep.
This is just a version of himself that you're seeing now, which speaks to, we'll get into it.
From Mad City to GNX, it's a hell of a journey.
This next phase is going to be dark.
Yeah.
You can see it, right? And that was the whole premise around the video with the light, the intro with the music. He opened with, because this is the phase that I am in now.
He's doing the shadow work.
It's war, right? But I think a lot of people don't talk about when you do grow, right? At the end of growth and healing isn't always happiness and bliss. Sometimes it's sacred rage, like you say.
Y'all know I love me some sacred rage.
Sometimes it is anger, and it's like I'm appreciative to be here, but it's like, yo, I got myself fucked up. Like, how did I? There's an anger that we have sometimes, and we try to, and that's an adjustment that we have to go through, right? As a person, because I don't know when we really start to value ourselves. That's why I like Man in the Garden. I deserve it all. Mm-hmm. How many people actually say that? Right? He told us to. I love myself. How many? And these are the records that people don't appreciate.
And you know what's so funny about the Man in the Garden with I Deserve It All is because we always do the LOL at the end. So even when Issa Rae says something like, I'd like to thank myself, ha ha ha, laugh track. There's something about, no, I'm not kidding. I do deserve it all. Mm-hmm. And the dark night of the soul that Kendrick has had, I don't think people understand that when you are in a spiritual awakening, it doesn't mean that you're toxically positive and everything is love and light. It's understanding that there's no light without shadow. And so Kendrick shedding light on so much would not happen for us unless he was willing to go into the shadows. And I think a lot of people have conflated looking happy with being in a good place. Being addicted to happiness is actually, to me, a disease, right? Because that's actually manic. If somebody was happy all the time, a therapist would be like, we need to get them some drugs. That is not fucking okay. Like, do you have any other feelings, right? But social media has taught us to pretend that our highlight reels are real life. And Drake was the soundtrack of that lie. He was the manufactured sound. He's very talented. His best acting job to me wasn't Jimmy on Degrassi. It was Drake, the rapper, right? Mm-hmm. And so because Drake was such a great and perfect puppet for that sedative, I think now that we're all saying we're actually not happy all the time, and sometimes things suck, and sometimes when you abuse me, I get to be fucking mad and say, actually, you overplayed your fucking hand. Now karma's knocking on your door. I think a lot of us don't understand that sacred rage is not meant to stay in the rage. It's to use rage as fuel. And as a black man, how does it feel knowing that you've done your work, you're a coach, you're helping people, black men, do their work, and yet there are men who are still clinging to the Drake of it all when Kendrick is being literally applauded as a better option. The men who are clinging to Drake, who are clinging to the fact of, no, it's the machine, I'm still the victim, even though I was just a sore winner. Why do you think they're clinging to that and they don't want to evolve and grow with the times?
I think a lot of men don't have the tools to. We weren't taught. We don't have the actuals, like, in order to fix something, you have to get to the root of it and really understand what it is. When I listen to Drake's music, I don't hear growth. And I don't hear it. I hear a guy who's bitter about success, about what woman did this, his friends, how he don't trust nobody.
He's always the victim. Drake is always the victim.
And there's no accountability for why you're in that environment. Like, he's an introspective person, but I think he was knocked off his horse and now he's not confident. I think early on there was a space where people, but I always question, what is people's actual connection? What do you relate to? Tim, I've asked men this. What do you actually relate to when it comes up? And there's no judgment. What do you relate to? Like, he was put up there on this pedestal of who you should aspire to be. Mm-hmm. Right?
He's winning right now.
And it's marketing dollars that tells you who this person is. But here comes somebody, this little kid from Compton, knocks him off his pedestal.
With the truth.
This is not even his first loss. Oh, no. Some would say Pusha beat him because he told the truth. Yeah. And when that light is, when they put that light on you and then people see who you are, you don't know how to handle that because a big part of you, maybe you don't know like who you are. So what is it for me when I listen? I've never seen this many men crash out and be upset.
The emperor has no clothes. Drake exposed a lot. I say this with as much love in my heart as I can. Drake exposed a whole lot of black men's Achilles heel. Because a lot of men always say this, and I've been wanting to talk to a man about this, so I'm happy that I trust you. And this is something that all good men say too, so it's not like a good man versus bad man thing. Mm-hmm. All men say...
They're the same person.
Yeah, I mean, a man is a man, a person is a person, right? A lot of men say, oh, so-and-so is successful, makes good money, she's beautiful, X, Y, and Z, but she ain't got a man though. And they act as if having everything that you've ever wanted internally, right? Like feeling good about yourself, having boundaries, having dignity, means nothing without a man. And yet, statistically speaking, the two happiest groups psychologically for several decades have been unmarried women and married men. Because scientists have found that when a woman gets married to a man, she has committed herself to giving up some of herself to give birth to his children, to take care of him, to have his back. The whole old school saying of, you're the head, I'm the neck. The neck does a lot of work. It's a lot of bones in the neck, right? Mm-hmm. And so women actually become less selfish when they are married because they have to be seen as a good wife, socially speaking. Men, on the other hand, are allowed to go work and be ambitious. Please go find the bacon and everything else because they have a woman who loves them, who's supposed to be at home, who has their back. They're being enhanced to be more selfish, but we're being socialized to be less selfish. So when you look at just happiness, objectively speaking, this is just data. Please look it up, do your own research. Unmarried women are happier because they get to think about themselves. And married men are happy because they have a woman thinking about them. In both situations, the woman's thinking about somebody, right? So what's been quantified is the nurturing that comes from women only enhances masculinity when it's healthy. So to men, being alone is the worst case scenario because them alone is the loneliness epidemic. It has a name now. There's a loneliness epidemic happening. And black men are the quickest group unaliving themselves and committing suicide. Trigger warning, right? So black men in their minds, well, you got all this shit, but you're alone. But they don't recognize her alone doesn't look like you're alone. Her alone means that she's allowed to go to therapy and have thriving relationships with her sisters and talk about her emotions and get tapped into her feelings and break generational curses. Your alone is you feel like you have to be rich and successful to personify an ideal without ever actually dealing with your emotions. The way that we clap for men is based on the surface. The way that we clap for women is based on, well, do you think you're a good mother? That's a relationship conversation. Do you think you're a good wife? That's a relationship internal conversation. For men, it's, did you pay the bills? Do you have high value, right? Do you have the prettiest bitch on your arm? Did you not get caught cheating? Like, they socialize men to equate aloneness with being bad because their aloneness is supposed to be superficial. And we thought Drake was introspective. And we realized, this is what I learned from Drake, honestly, the word introspection no longer means anything to me because when you're being introspective, are you being self-aware or self-conscious? Drake was never being self-aware, he was being self-conscious. Had he had a little bit of the awareness that we thought he had, he wouldn't have gotten here.
No, you're right.
Does that make sense to you?
No, that makes sense.
And by the way, that was a lot. My bad. That was a lot.
You needed, because you brought some things up for me. Yes, early. So when I say early on, now, you don't know what somebody's made of until they face a little bit of adversity, until you actually have to show up as this person who you say that you are. Pusha wasn't big enough to shine a light on it. Kendrick was. And Kendrick could have easily have lost, right? To the masculine part of it, and I'll go to me. Honestly, the decision that I made and the type of leader that I wanted to be, I wanted a woman who was nurturing, who was loving. I wanted somebody who was cultured, who was raised culturally.
Because you understood the value
love,
of that. You understood the value of it.
I didn't always. I didn't always understand that.
What got you there, friend? This is important because a lot of men only know how to love women in relation to how women can support them and not for who they actually are as people. And so as somebody who's taken that journey, what made you see value in women and not just them as props holding you up?
Results. I kept getting the same results. I kept dating the same women. And then the last one, which you and I know, when I had that panic attack. And I have to give you your flowers here because I don't think you understand the role that you played when I was going through that experience, because to actually have a woman, you opened me up to be more open to my girl now because of how you advocated for me, how you nurtured me through that, through everything. So when I see what's possible, what a woman's capable, not to say that they're not capable, right? But when you actually experience, like I always say, I didn't know what love was until I actually experienced it. I didn't know what being nurtured or advocated for on behalf of a woman until I actually experienced it with you. And then for that, now that I have a picture of that, I can see it in Myrna.
And we love her. I love her so much. Like your girlfriend is so amazing.
Yeah, like I can't. If there was a tip I would tell in a relationship, you have to constantly remind yourself of who you with, who your partner is to you.
Yeah.
If you do not do it, you'll forget. With all of the distractions and social media and TV, you'll forget. You'll kind of lose sight of it.
Yeah.
Right? You have to constantly reinforce and remind yourself, like, yo, this is why I chose this person. This is why I'm grateful for this person because, and you know, I travel a lot. She travels a lot. It can just natural human nature. You can lose that.
Yeah.
You know, but the results, to get back to what you were saying, the results in my life, I kept getting the same thing, and then I just made a decision on what type of life do you want to create? What are your desires? What do you want? And are the people, the environment, is it in alignment with that? I just got tired. I hit rock bottom, but I knew, And then God made, I'll share this, right? When I was told that, she could have been pregnant, I experienced something like that before.
You were told who could have been pregnant, your ex or your
Ex.
Yeah.
Right. So it was very similar to what I went through before. And in that moment, when I tell you it was so clear when God was talking to me, he's like, do you get it now? Do you see it? I'm not going to give you this chance again. Do you understand? You knew you were supposed to. Do you understand now?
And the idea of you doing all this work on yourself and getting someone pregnant that you did not trust to be the kind of person who could build legacy with you in the way that you envisioned. I think a lot of men don't stop and think about that. I think we've gotten to the place where we've made it seem casual to knock somebody up and just have a baby, and it's like an accessory, and then you hand it to your gay best friend, and then you go with the producers to shoot your show. Like, everybody acts like creating life with someone isn't a big deal and doesn't tether you to their entire bloodline. You're tethered to their entire bloodline.
And probably the most important decision, because the reality of it is her mindset will raise my kids.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, yes, I'm behind her pushing, leading, but she's the leader. I'm preparing you. I'm preparing you like, hey, do you know A, B, C, and D? Do you know how to shoot a firearm? Do you know how to do all these things? Because if I'm not here, I need to know and trust, will you be able to hold things down? Will you be able to take care of my kids? If I can't say that with a resounding yes, I'm not doing it.
And will I be proud of the kids you raise? Yeah,
right. But that's me. Look, the woman is a representation of where you are. It's a mirror.
Yeah.
Just like when Kendrick does all of these things, he's literally putting a mirror in front of all of us. So it's interesting to see, out of all the things, the imagery and the amazing visuals last night, people want to talk about, oh, I couldn't understand the thing he was saying. Out of all of that, that's what you choose
because they
to
want
pay
the
attention
sedative.
to.
They want the sedative. They've been weaned onto the sedative for 15 years. When people have a sugar addiction, they forget what apples taste like because they want like Sour Patch Kids, right? Like whenever I was talking to my Uber driver, because it turned into a therapy session with him. And while we were in the Uber, I was talking about the power of fasting, because when you fast, it literally cleanses your palate. And suddenly you eat a grape, you're like, this is the most busting grape I've ever had in my life. My God, did grapes always taste this good? Yes, grapes always tasted like that. Your palate was cleansed. And I feel a lot of time, men and women, when they're dating, don't cleanse their palate. So they're saying they want apples, but they've been eating Sour Patch Kids for years on end. It's not the apple's fault that you're not feeling what you're supposed to be feeling. Your palate is dulled. Your palate is dull to the point where you don't even know that an apple tastes good by itself without anything being added to it. And I think a lot of people who watch Kendrick are so used to what Drake has kind of been used as a puppet to pump out. When they hear something that's that intricate, when they see imagery that's that soulful and has that many cultural references, rather than engage and be stretched, they want to go back to eating the candy. Kendrick is like fresh produce in a world full of processed fucking candy.
There was a video that I watched, or some part went during the beef, right? Because I really just wanted to enjoy the music for the music.
Yeah.
Right? And there was a part, I caught a clip of some people who were close to him. He would say, yo, like, are they listening?
To words.
Well, it was that, but will it reach people?
Yeah.
Do people care enough? Like, what I took from it and how he was explaining was there was some doubt, right? Because you never know how the people are going to respond. And he knows the game that he's in. It could have easily went the other way. Everything that Drake wanted to, from blocking the music to the songs. And
it usually
imagine Drake getting his way, and not like us, never sees the light of day. Yeah. When I watched that song, I was watching some video, and I watched the people's reaction. You can't pay for that. There's nothing a label. Like Glass Malone always says, the culture always wins.
Yeah.
You can't pay for that.
What did he say? He said you can't manufacture influence.
You can't fake influence.
You can't fake it.
You can't. You can't buy that type of impact.
I think
and
we're in a counter culture, because you know how they always talk about the pendulum of progress, where it goes extreme to the conservative, then extreme to liberal, and then there's a sweet spot where for a couple of years, maybe a decade if we're lucky, it finds that middle sweet spot. I think that the pendulum has swung really far radical to conservative as a response to Barack Obama, obviously, and I fear for people like Snoop Dogg and the Ice Cubes and the Nellies. What happens when it swings back over this way, where the rest of your community is not waiting for you anymore? Because you took those checks, you went with the winning team, but someone like Snoop, I'm so disgusted by someone like Snoop because I grew up, when I listened to East Coast versus West Coast, I was in Boston on the wrong side. I was listening to Tupac and Snoop Dogg more than I was listening to
we
Biggie.
all were.
Yeah, I was on the wrong side, okay? I might have been
were.
on the East Coast, but I was like, yeah, I got it put in detention because Snoop Dogg for the first time. Because I was singing to all my niggas in, my bitches in, my bitches in, my niggas, throw your motherfucking hands in the air. I was in Catholic school. So Sister Irene sent me to detention because I was yelling profanity and racial. It was an Irish Catholic school. So they were like, you're saying nigger in school. So Snoop Dogg literally got me locked up for the first time. That's how much I was a West Coast nigga, right? Living in Boston, mind your business. And to see him and Tom Brady, Patriots fan, to see them in this commercial. Did you see that commercial that they did? Where it's like, I think I hate you because I don't understand that we're all just one.
No, I didn't see that one.
It was like a Trump propaganda ad that we're all colorblind, so we're all one color in the name of Trump or some bullshit. I said, what in the coonery, Snoop? You've come a long way from the dog pound. So my question is, when Dr. Dre and Lucian Grange are high-fiving each other because Kendrick Lamar done set a revolutionary fire in the middle of the Grammy stage, but Snoop Dogg is doing Step and Fetch It for like Django Unchained with Donald Trump, while the guy who actually played Django, Samuel L. Jackson, is on Kendrick's side. Everybody's on the wrong side. What the fuck? Are black men okay? Are y'all okay? I don't think that Snoop and Dre are talking right now. How could they?
All that was in. There's a
Black men are having a cat fight, and I think it's time we talk about it, friend.
So what I'll say, one of the
Team Kendrick and Team Drake is bigger than a battle of rap right now. It's like an ideology battle right now.
One of the biggest things that I saw as a result of how many people were dependent upon Drake. I saw how people reported, what they reported, and who was incentivized by backing this horse.
So are you saying that Drake is Ghost from Power? It's giving Ghost. It's giving Ghost.
But he knew that. Drake knew that, right? It's why. But also, if you don't understand that the industry, nobody's really friends. As long as you're making me money, cool. Yeah, I'll back you.
Yeah.
But when I strip all the entertainment away, just as men, how could y'all be okay with certain things being said and done, right? But y'all are upset for Kendrick. Oh, he said this over here, but he said that it's not his kid. And he beats
Drake would literally get into a fight with you and try to fuck your baby moms. Like that is like
folklore
that is all over. You cannot cough in LA without running into somebody who's fucked Drake. Drake has ate out half of my friends. This man is for the street. Like he's everywhere. It's true. You know he will eat you out and buy you a purse. We've talked about this previously, Los. My audience knows I keep it a stack. Okay? Drake is outside. He will fuck your wife on some petty shit. He don't even like her.
But then we need to talk about the competition between men.
But that's buck breaking, right? Like, I'm sorry, it's a little tone deaf. So buck breaking guys, I'm bringing it back to, I'm turning it to Mark Lamont Hill. I apologize. Black in the slave times, because everything comes back to slavery. They would take the strongest, biggest black buck of a man. We call them quarterbacks these days. And Master would fuck them in front of everybody else. They weren't even gay. They wanted to break their spirits. If I'm fucking your men, your strongest buck, and breaking his back in front of his wife, his children, and his mother and his father, this is just history. History is violent, okay? Mm-hmm. I've broken his back. I've also broken his dignity. And so buck breaking was done to black men through sexual trauma. Mm-hmm. Black men and black women, right? They've always charted with sexual trauma because everything's about sex except for rape. Rape is about power. Then buck breaking went from, okay, now I'm going to fuck your women, and if the kids are caramel enough, they can be in the house and be treated to be the bourgeois, and their actual brothers who just have the same father but a different mother or whatever will be in the field. And it becomes this thing of now there's brothers who one is a little bit darker, one's a different kind of buck breaking. It becomes psychological. The way that the Trump administration has targeted black men after traumatizing them. Because I always say this, it's easier to be the savior when you created the problem, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's easier to be the architect of the solution when you're the one who created the disease. Now we're watching all these black men run over as incels to the conservative side, and they're talking about other black people as if they're not niggas too. And it's very disconcerting, friend. And how do you as a black man deal with running into them in the industry? Because you're in the industry, Carlos, so I know you know some of these niggas. Allegedly. Allegedly, okay? The words of Blue Telusma are not the words of Fit Buddha. Hit it, friend.
There's a part of me that's still trying to understand and grasp it all. Like, because I feel like every time I look and read something, I'm seeing something new.
Yeah.
I see that I'm putting together this puzzle. Like, oh, he's attached to this, he's attached to this, and then I'm going through history, be like, oh, now I understand why this and this and this.
It's the payday.
Nobody's really friends at all, right? Then and it's with athletes too. Like there's this competition, thing amongst men, where you feel like he's not deserving of this. So in order to feel validated, right? That's where they're all sleeping with
the same 12
allegedly.
girls. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We know. Look, Carlos, we only got 2 hours. We gotta get to the.
No,
it's the same dozen.
Yeah,
and there's some hitters in there too. Some of these women are assassins. Okay, they're not victims. They are.
Oh
good.
no,
they are good at what they do.
It's very calculated.
I'm not gonna say this is one of them, so I don't want to get sued. I'm not gonna say this, but there's certain old school comedians and certain old school actors whose first wives are considered legends in this industry for different reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking. Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Trying to make sure both of us can still go to the after parties after this. And we just know that's a bad bitch from the 90s, and she might take you or your son or your daddy. Like anybody could get took from this family. And it almost becomes a weird secret society because those women are not just baddies, they also understand the politics. So they know when to shut the fuck up, they know how not to share stuff. And I think Drake's biggest mistake was he was doing too much pillow talk with those hitters. Those women who, even though he dated you, she might have dated somebody else, he was running his mouth and speaking ill about other men that those women were also dealing with.
But this happened.
And it got back to them. That's some bitch shit, though. I mean, not to use that in a derogatory way.
A lot of them do. They all. It's not something that's new. It's always been happening.
Y'all always acting like baddies behind the scenes because this is giving Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Guys talk.
Guys gossip. Guys, be honest, men gossip. Friend.
We talk.
What we do is y'all call it gossip. y'all act like Nene and them. Okay, Sheree.
No, so we talk more than what people.
Drake and Kendrick have exposed black men for being gossipers. The jig is up, friend. I love you. The jig is. Look at your face.
Blue.
You're a good man. You're a good man.
No, we do gossip and have our conversations.
Thank you for admitting that, friend.
Like we do.
Thank
you. And we talk about it all. But it happens, and a lot of times men feel more manly when you sleep with other women. You feel over top of somebody else. Well, that's
you pulled his bitch.
The Tupac and Biggie.
Yeah.
That's why it's something that stings. And it's something that stings, especially when it's one of your brothers. So now we're talking about brotherhood. Now we're talking about masculinity. Now, what happens when a masculine man shows up amongst these people who don't fuck around with that type of behavior?
Yeah, and he's doing it to people that
so
he's
now
on songs with.
We can't get. So when Kendrick said, "No, don't let nobody talk about a black woman," that's law, right? He showed that should be a fact. It should be, but we become so comfortable with allowing a certain behavior. And then with the whole Drake thing and the behavior, I'm like, well, what does that say about us as fans? Because if we call it out more so, you speak your truth, but a lot of times we're pacified. We just want to be comfortable, leave me alone and watch TV and eat my oatmeal.
He's winning. The thing with Drake is he was allowed because he was winning. When you're winning, nobody's going to tell you anything.
And then nobody checked him. So amongst all of that, there's not an environment of men to actually hold him accountable. We can look at plenty of examples or archetypes of men, successful black men in this industry, where they're in an environment where men don't check them. In an environment with masculine men, women feel safe.
Yes.
They're trusting that, and men know to not go into that circle because Carlos is going to say something. He's going to say something. They know. Right? They'll try it, they'll test it, but so many environments are men who don't check because they care about themselves too much. And I see that a lot. And whatever reason it is, money, whatever the case.
I think it's bigger than money. I think money is often used as a shorthand, a sexy shorthand for insecurity. Because what you're saying struck me where last year I recognized I will never again date a man who only has female friends. Because when men only have female friends and don't have any other men around, like I just need a good bro. What ends up happening is he's always being codified. Because even when a woman is checking you, a woman who loves you, who's checking you, is still nurturing you while you're being checked. Mm-hmm. There's a nurturing aspect that happens when you're the guy in the girl group. If another nigga's not around to call bullshit on the ways that we can't, because we're just not, we call bullshit in different ways. Women call bullshit when we know that even though you're not cheating on us, you letting that homegirl who has a crush flirt with you is signaling to her that she could have you if she really applied pressure. So she's walking up to me with some funny shit in her head. That's a woman thing that we have to explain to y'all. Y'all be like, no, but I'm not fucking her. That's my little sis. Your little sis likes knowing that you're going to have a sexually charged, inappropriate flirting session with her when I'm not around and then smile on my face when she sees me because now she thinks she has one over on me. That's how women compete, right? Men compete in more blatant ways, like I'm gonna just fuck your bitch. Like it's a little bit less nuanced than how women do it, but we understand and clock each other. When a man is in a room full of women, there's little things that only another man could clock that even the smartest woman cannot clock, which means he's having the semblance of being held accountable. He's getting tons of nurturing, which can be a little bit greedy, but he's not getting chin checked in the way that only another nigga could chin check him. And so for me, if I'm dating a guy, you have to have at least one bro. Not all your female friends who want to fuck you and your mother who acts like you're her surrogate husband and your bestie who acts like you're the most important man in her life because all she got is cats. I'm talking about a nigga who doesn't want anything from you but brotherhood has to be on the other end of the phone at least once in a while for me to trust your masculinity. So men need men to have integrity.
You care about, so you look at the counsel men keep. I do the same thing with
yes,
women.
men need men to, like, if I was a woman and I only had male friends and had no women around me, I would tell my nigga not to trust me. Because that means that I like to feel like I'm basically little Kim and Junior Mafia and getting my ego stroked, but I'm never competing with other bitches because I'm always the only one.
I've had a friend tell me.
It's dangerous and when it's always just the other gender and not your own because you're not facing your own shit.
This is true. I've had the opposite. Somebody told me, and she said she judged men based on how many female friends he had. Now, the degrees of which how you're measuring could be different, right? And her whole thing was, she said, because if there are women around him, now this is not 100% true, but she says women trust him.
Yep.
He said the one thing with women that they'll always keep a guy that they trust and feel safe around. Even if the dynamic or the relationship might, unless it just ends terribly, women are going to keep good men around. She said, if he doesn't have any female friends, I'm looking at him crazy.
I would tell your friend to be careful with that because a new strain of nigga has evolved.
Now, this is a few years ago.
Yeah, because as of 2024, the new strain is the performative nice guy who's actually the biggest wolf in the whole pack. And so what's happened now, a lot of men who have gone to TikTok and learned therapy speak know how to be nice guy presenting while still being a fucking hound dog. And they're nice guy presenting in a way that only one of their female friends' new boyfriend would be able to peep out. The irony is you're the perfect example of why I disagree with what she said is because I was hanging out with a guy who I thought was a nice guy, and you were my only male friend who lived in LA who was constantly around us. You immediately started clocking his shit. The first thing you said to me was, Blue, he's coming over here to have brunch with you and your friends, and you just told him that you ran out of orange juice. If he does not bring orange juice, that man does not give a fuck about you.
I said that?
Yes, and I said, what? It's just orange juice. He said, no. A man who cares about you and the access you're giving him would not want to come into your home empty-handed knowing that you needed something that he could easily bring you.
Yes, that's true.
It would mortify him. He would get to the parking garage and pull back out and get you some orange juice.
And yeah, he would probably
Only another man can tell me that. I don't care how many smart homegirls I have. There's value in being a man and being able to talk to other men in the same way there's value in being a woman and being able to talk to other women. And so if you don't have at least one brother who's going to be like, look, I know all your homegirls think you're the nicest nigga ever. I know you got dirty dick. I know you community peen. Okay. And they don't know what you be doing when you go to the strip club with us. And you don't do that to your girlfriend. We like her. As the homegirl, I'm not doing that because a lot of men are still performing for their homegirls. They are. There's a new strain of fuckboy that presents as the nice guy in a room full of women. And the minute he's around other men, he clams up because he knows they can clock him.
Which is funny. That happens a lot.
That happens a lot to me.
With me, and I see it because a lot of times I'm just quiet.
You're usually the narc.
And I'm looking at, I'm in the quiet like, yo, why? Because I don't show up talking and attention. And like my dynamics with people, whether it be women, however, they go however they go. I'm not going in looking for attention. But when I sit back and I watch people, you can tell who's uncomfortable. Yeah. You can tell who's comfortable. You can tell how people move around the room. Yeah. How they move around the room tells me everything. And
you can tell who's flirty and who everybody's looking at. Like a lot of times when I look at these men who have all the female friends, there's a way that all the female friends look at them, whether it's platonic or not. I'm like, you are addicted to that look. You are so empty on the inside. You need everybody around you to look at you like that.
That's why I'm mindful.
That's insecurity.
That's why I'm mindful of how much Mirna laughs at me. She was like, yo, she said, you'll have a whole conversation with a female and at the end of it tell her you're in a relationship.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
And she said, she's like, why do you do that to people, friend? And I'm like, I don't want anything.
Not your girlfriend saying, why you do that, friend?
She was like, you get off on it. I'm like, no, like, I don't want anything. So I do think it's healthy for men to engage with women, right? It's perfectly healthy. Now, sometimes the conversation just goes and we're 20 minutes in, I'm like, oh, this feels awkward.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't actually need to say it. I can, hey, nice to meet you. Then
I would say start saying it more. As Mirna's advocate, I would say it more, friend.
I do. Okay. But sometimes I get caught in
because don't let me come out the bathroom. Be like, hey, I'm Mirna's friend. Who are you?
Look, all you got to do is go to my page. Like it's right there. But even in that, right?
That was a good dude privilege. You have good guy privilege.
What?
A lot of things that good men do that are nothing are where the bad men hide. So,
explain it to me.
A perfect example. A good dude is like, I just want to make sure my friend got home safe. A fuck nigga wants her to know that if we flirt enough, I'm coming inside with you. In your mind, you're not realizing that you driving off is a choice because you're a good guy where driving off makes sense. There are other men who are waiting to see if they're going to be invited in. And so a lot of women who are used to, this is my handicap. I have so many good platonic men around me who treat me good as a platonic person. When I meet somebody pretending to be a good guy, it's so familiar to me, I don't even think to double click. And it's not till later I find out, oh, when you dropped her home, you went inside and blew her back out because you a dirty nigga. Got it. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that happens. And so there's a hypervigilance that I think I stopped myself by saying the only way that I stay supple is to always have what I want to be and what I want to have around me when the stakes are low. I want to be a good woman. So I have women around me who I think are good partners to their partners. Mm-hmm. I want to attract a good man. So I have men around me who are platonic, who act like good men. So both sides are covered in my regular life when there's nothing at stake. So when I meet somebody, I'm not desperately clinging to them. Because I realize that the antidote to these kind of men is if you have abundance elsewhere, you don't have a reason not to see things. In the same way with Drake, a lot of people don't see what they don't like to see with Drake because they have a financial incentive. They like the optics of being next to him, Party Next Door and all of them, right? Drake is tied to their legacy, so they have an incentive to not see things. When you don't have that incentive, it makes you a better litmus. And so I always want to have people around me who have no incentive to lie to me, chin checking me politely because they love me, so that when I'm dating someone, I'm like, wait a minute. Carlos told me that when you niggas don't bring the orange juice, that means you didn't give a fuck. But it's true. The orange juice story stuck with me, Los. I love that you don't remember that you said it. It was so wise.
If a man really cares about you, and I'll say this, if a man wants you, he's going to come and get you. I truly believe that.
Thank you, friend. You've always told me that.
I truly believe that. And again, the right woman, because certain women inspire us to do things, to step outside of ourselves, of things that we normally either just really don't do.
Yeah.
So something as simple as, getting orange juice for you. Mm-hmm. It's like, man, you were listening. And sometimes we don't always know how to receive that when somebody does it. He's not obligated to. But the fact that he or she goes and does that thing to get to the orange juice says everything you need. It's the cliche, it's not the big stuff. It's the small things. I've been in front of the house. Oh, I need this. No, you don't got to go get it. No, I'm going to go get it. I'm inspired to go the extra mile. I know I don't have to do it, but I'm inspired to do that for you or the people that I care about.
Now I have a question about the orange juice story. The guy who brought the orange juice to brunch that day got to a point where he realized the version of himself that he would have to be to continue having access to me was one that he was going to have to put effort into.
He ran? And
so he ran and fucked on the next cheapest thing with low buy-in that he could find, right? And my question is, explain to me why a man will find a woman who inspires him to be more and then find an excuse to not even try. It's one thing if you try and fail, but I've watched so many men get freaked out and run back to the safety of a woman with lower standards rather than put in effort. And what is that about?
Well, for one, we run back to what's familiar.
That's cowardice. Okay.
That's one, right? Mm-hmm. And we feel like we're not deserving of it. It's a lack of self-love. Because when a woman, I've read this plenty of times with men, well, no, I'm not ready yet, and you deserve better. And I'm like, well, why'd you engage? You knew that beforehand.
Yep.
But the second, and this is why there's a book, you said a few things earlier, I didn't touch it. There's a book, and she says, when women, like, you have to require certain things of men. Like, for example, if he's cleaning dishes and he's not doing it the way that you want him to, don't go in and just move. No, let me do it. No, require him to finish and do those dishes. Because every time when you don't require him to do certain things, whether it's show up, be thoughtful, be mindful, whatever it is, they won't do it. So that's one. And then they run because of accountability. I'm now responsible to act in a way because maybe, and I don't know, I wasn't required growing up. I wasn't required from my mom. My environment didn't require me to do these things. So I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what, and again, at some point that was me. But I was also aware, but I would stay into relationships way too long because I didn't want to be the bad guy. And that's what happened. So there's this, either guys run or they stay too long because there is this fear of looking like a bad guy.
Both are ego.
Yeah.
Both of those actions are ego, and where you are doing what looks good, not what you actually mean. So it might look good and nice guyish on paper, but there's a lack of integrity because it's not what you actually mean, and you're setting the person up for disappointment when you eventually tell the truth.
Yes, but I think the other side, and I always try to just look at it, is understand why men do that. I'm not saying that it's right.
They've been socialized. You guys have been socialized to be prideful.
Because it's not, right? I'm not going to go down a whole story about, but why do men do that? Because a lot of the times in relationships, and a lot of times men get more of the brunt of it, per se. It's well, what did the guy do? And we think about that. Mm-hmm. How we break up, how we do it, how we say. So in our minds, we're like, hey, no, if I stay longer and try to make it work, I'm going to be looked at as a good guy. And it's like, well, you were a good guy. You already are that. Mm-hmm. So again, that goes back to the self-love, self-advocating for it. Like it's a lot of things where we just aren't taught, and a lot of men don't have the tools to actually sustain and facilitate emotions. We only know how to show up one way, physical. Now you're asking me to show up emotionally? Hold on now.
Yeah, I once talked to a guy, and this was the moment where I knew that I could never trust him with my heart. And he said, there are women that I sleep with and have sex and do all types of nasty shit with, and they're the women that I trust and respect and have long, heartfelt conversations with. And we were like on hour 8 of a 9-hour date when he said this. And I was like, wait, so nigga, I'm an emotional support dog? The fuck? Like, and I got so angry, and I was like, how dare you flatten us down like that? How dare you act like the women who sleep with you are just hoes who are there to appease you sexually, and the women that who are actually having intimate emotional connections with you, who you're telling are beautiful and making them feel all these things, now you're not going to sleep with them because that would be too real. You're setting up both groups and flattening us. That's incredibly selfish. You're not being a good guy by not sleeping with the smart girls and only fucking the hoe girls. You're making everybody a one-dimensional character in a world where you're the only person who gets to be human. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he was like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. And I was like, because you're fragile. Fragile people are selfish. The biggest thing I've learned from observing the men that I love, both good, bad, and everything in between, is when you are fragile, you are an incredibly selfish person immediately. Because think about it. If you're walking on ice and you're holding my hand, you're like, okay, Blue, you're safe. I'm holding your hand. And your ice cracks and mine doesn't. So I'm on steady ground, but you're under shaky ground. What are you going to do? You're going to let go of my hand and then become hyper-focused on you not falling and busting your ass. Mm-hmm. The minute you become fragile, you've let me go. You can't keep me safe. You can't look out for me. You can't be there for me because you're hyper-focused because you're compromised. When a man has a fragile sensibility, no matter what happens, I can't ever trust you to be there for me because you're so worried about your own demise. You're not even checking on me. And so fragile men have now scared me because they present as the nice guy. No, you're not a nice guy. You're a fragile guy. You know who's nice? The men who will say, hey, Blue, you deserve a really great relationship, and I'm going to figure out how to show up as the man you deserve. Or, hey, Blue, I don't have to show up. Let me not waste your time. That's a nice guy to me.
And the crazy thing about it, out of all people, they can be the most honest, with you.
I'm built for it.
I think as men, women can withstand a lot, right? I think there's a lot that women, if you approach them honest, having accountability, women can have a conversation.
That's part of the problem, though, Los.
What?
As a smart man who's had therapy and done the work, you're looking at it. Can she handle it? Oh my God, obviously she can handle it. She's a badass bitch. We're gonna have a great conversation. That's what a healthy man says. A fragile man says, if I think that she's too good for me and I tell her that I think she's too good for me and she doesn't fight me on this point and just agrees with me and respectfully disengages, that's another rejection. You not fighting and becoming the crazy ex-girlfriend and saying, bet, I do deserve more than you're giving me. And if you can't give it to me, I agree we should break up. That's another rejection to a fragile man. Because the most fragile men want to know that they had an impact. And when you walk away with your dignity, they take their inability to destroy you as you not loving them. There have been men that I've loved deeply who were mad at me because they couldn't destroy me. Why does love have to be conflated with destruction for it to matter? A lot of men resent women that they cannot destroy. And that's how fragility shows up a lot.
Yeah, I know that happens.
What do you feel like when you watch men do that? Like, can you explain to me why they're like that? Because I've been the victim, but I need answers, friend. Like, why are you mad at me? I gave you vagina and food and the Uber picture. Like, what the fuck?
Because I have examples. They may watch this.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So I'm trying to see how can I explain.
Change the names. His name is not Timothy, it's Shrimothy.
Because my circle is small.
Okay.
So it would.
But we're talking about men in general and by the way, guys, we're having this conversation with Fit Buddha because Carlos is such a good dude, and that's like your superpower. Like, everybody can hate each other, and you'd be like, hey guys, you are with Switzerland. There's certain things I can say with you, but because you're saying them, they're gonna be more palatable to the audience. And that's me just understanding optics, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people, even if they heard you, I'm like, is he talking about me? They're gonna trust that it's coming from a good place. Like they're not gonna feel like you're just talking shit. Did that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Ask me the question again.
Okay, when you see a man who you can tell is being fragile and about to fuck up something good, not because of a real threat, but because of the battle he has inside. As a secure man, how do you feel watching your brothers self-sabotage their own happiness?
When men tell other men, don't fuck that up. That happens.
Yeah.
As men, even the most toxic guys, when we see certain guys, you got a good woman, we'll go, hey, don't fuck that up. Right? Because we see a behavior or consistency of that's what they do. I think it's sad because I don't think they realize the long-term effects that it's going to have on them.
Yeah.
Right? For one, you're going to look up and you're going to see her out and happy and doing life and you're going to feel the way.
Yeah.
Right? Like
that's the irony. The women who can make you feel like that are also the ones who are going to still be popping when you're gone. Like, that's the very kind of woman who puts you in that position. Like, a woman who's so amazing on her own that she's only there as an enhancement because she's already a whole person is exactly the kind of person who's going to make you feel scared like that. So why, when you fumble that, you know what's about to happen.
And the reality
you know what's about. She's about to be glowing.
I've told guys, I'm like, yo, and I've had conversation with friends about other people's girls when we know guys ain't doing, and we were like, yo, the second she gets on the market, they're going to snatch her up. I've been in situations where I've literally said to a guy like, yo, the second, he said, yo, it's sharks around her because they know how such and such is moving. Oh, the second she's on, she's going to be pregnant within 6 to 12 months.
Jesus Christ.
I'm being like, I can look through.
When Carlos y'all be like, boy, if you fuck this up, she will be impregnated by the end of the winter solstice.
It's like you ask for the nurturing, you ask for women to
be their best,
to show up, and when it happens, and the only reason is either you don't know, or you can't see it, or you don't want to.
You don't value it,
right? So, and that's a real comment. If you don't value it or know, okay, that's honest. Well, if you're not going to do everything to keep her, let her go. Yeah. Right. I used to always say, like, don't mess up the good ones. Don't fuck over the good ones. At least be honest. Yeah. And it's the bare minimum. Just be honest about where you stand, you know, and what you want. I've seen a lot of. I'm trying to think about how I can go around this story.
Here's the thing: when two people who are coaches and who work in the industry are trying to have a conversation that's on camera, it gets tricky.
No, it gets
tricky.
It's and we happen to be people where I know a bunch of random stuff. Yeah. That I probably should not know.
You and I always get tea that we didn't ask for.
And I'll be like, wait, what?
Me and Carlos are always like, did you hear about the thing? You're like, did you hear about the thing? I'm like, okay, we could literally work for the CIA and we don't even know any of this
and I'm just
stuff.
like, yo, like, to the point to where my phone starts acting up and I'm like, yeah, I gotta go. Like, literally my phone will cut off. Or I start getting like weird, random, you know.
Oh, they're definitely listening. Whoever's listening to my phone calls just thinks I'm batshit. Like, this bitch is always helping somebody or ordering pizza.
Yeah,
what the fuck?
I just wish men would get to a place where look, women are actually better outside of relationships.
That's been scientifically quantified.
It's men, and there's a book, Dance of Intimacy, right? And it's women, it's men who need relationships.
Yep.
Right?
Carlos, can you repeat that? Because men keep saying, well, Dr. Joy Bryant is 41 and fine and intelligent, but she's single. A woman who loves herself, who is single, is doing better than the woman who is in a bad relationship. That's not like the diss that y'all think it is. Like, being happy and healthy single scientifically has been proven by researchers. Again, look it up. Are actually happier and live longer than women who are in bad relationships.
You know why I feel bad? Like, I think
being single and happy and whole is not the worst case scenario. Being in a fucked up relationship is the worst case scenario.
I think it's fair to ask, right? I'm not, hey, if you're in a relationship, okay. It's so easy. It's the easiest, like the lowest hanging fruit.
It's the jab. Like,
right,
you all that, but you alone.
I
a really
think
fine
it's a fair
ass
question
alone.
if you really want to know, right?
Yeah.
But it's the easiest part to jab. That's the part as me. I'm like, look, ask a question, then let her answer. Right? Like, maybe seeing the value in yourself, you don't want to. And I'm sure when that question is asked or people bring it up, I'm sure it's some part of her hurts because she feels that somewhere.
Sometimes, not always.
I mean, some small part, because she might look at it and be like, hey, I don't have kids. I'm not married. You're going to think about it. It might not affect her to the same ability.
No, it's not that it's not going to affect her. It's where the blame is going, because women who are highly educated, we're not blaming ourselves. So here's the thing, I've been engaged twice, not been married yet. And people used to make jabs about that. Like, how you been engaged twice, bitch? Like, you're not gonna show up to the church? And I said, they proposed to me because they knew I'd be a good wife. I broke off the engagement because they didn't show they were gonna be a good husband. And the same thing has happened to Dr. Joy, where she's been proposed to and she opted out because she did her part, but he wasn't doing his. And so, no, it doesn't always hurt, because we're annoyed with y'all. Like, yeah, I did my part, nigga. Do your part so I can get fucking married. Some women are not married not because they're not getting chosen, but because the people who are choosing them are not doing their part. And so even the assumption of lack is where I think we all have to address misogyny inside. It is so hard to believe that a woman actually is happy without a man, not because she doesn't want one, but because she hasn't found one that's good enough for her yet. Because men know that they judge hoes, right? We judge hoes too. Newsflash, there's a lot of high-powered women who are not going to try to turn a whore into a housewife just because it's a man whore. I'm not going to settle down with a man who's acting like community dick. Men got so used to being the one judging people's sex acts, they forget that this new wave of women, we're judging them back like, ooh, you have no sexual discipline. Yeah, no.
So that's a look.
Carlos is like, Jesus Christ.
Man, no, because I have a lot of these conversations with. I'm grateful to be able.
You're surrounded by alpha women.
No, that's my biggest flex.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I am not the smartest person when I am around y'all.
Carlos is around all the women who call bullshit, and they don't call bullshit on him. That is a big flex.
So that's the part where I'm like, flex. When I say something, I'm like, what is Blue gonna say? Blue, I say something and I'm looking at you like, did her eye twitch? What's the microaggression?
Oh my God, I know the microexpression.
No, but I also say certain things because I want you to challenge me on that.
Yeah, you're really good about
that.
Right,
like the curiosity. I just got.
Because you actually want to learn, not just be right.
Yeah, like I want to be challenged and pushed, right? So me being able to sit down with you, there's a level of safety that I have with you, that I can say certain things and it doesn't become this divisive. Like, you and I, we might not always agree, but I respect what you have to say because I understand. I know that it's coming from,
and I feel safe with you,
and I understand where it's coming from a good place.
Carlos knows all my business, y'all. Yeah.
Right, like so. But I'm grateful to be able to look.
How did we get there though? Because you start off by saying that when we became friends, you hadn't had a woman advocate for you without ulterior motives in that way. And it felt good to just know somebody was advocating for you, right? I advocate for a lot of men who have access to that and they still sabotage it because they don't trust it, or their ego was like, no, I'm the man. I should be the one being there for her. And how did you get to a place where you could receive that sort of nurturing, loving care? Because a lot of men are offered it and reject it because they don't know how to receive it.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm going to say I don't know, but I do know. Right? It's a moment that happened. Okay, when I say you opened up the door for me to be able to understand what that looked like from a friend standpoint. When I met Myrna, right, there was one time she touched my shoulder and I jumped, and she said, "You don't know how to receive love, do you?"
Well, that's my girl.
And I said, "Nope." There was no explanation needed.
Yeah.
There was nothing. I didn't need to. I didn't feel this need to defend it. I didn't feel this need to justify why I do. I said nope, and she said, "Don't worry about it. I got you."
That's beautiful.
And I let her be her. And I think that's the thing where, look, there are some women in this world. Some are wild, some are tame, and I mean wild, and they go and they roam, and you got to understand who you're with as a partner.
Which one am I, friend?
You're wild.
Wait.
No. No, you're wild, right? So
oh my God.
You're
I'm a
wild
good
in a
person.
sense. So I don't mean wild like there's a level of space that you if I understand you, like you gotta let Blue be Blue. Let Blue say the things that's on her mind. Let her don't reel her in. Don't suppress her.
Can I be a domesticated wild thing? Is that a thing? Is domesticated wildness?
Blue.
I'm wild, but I'm getting old.
I mean this in the most respectful way.
I'm shocked you said I'm wild.
Because Myrna is.
She's
wild.
wild.
So when I say wild, like just how you are, your energy is. You're going to speak. It's for some people. If you don't know how to show up, people might say, "Hey, you're too masculine. She's this, she's that." And I'm like, "No, that's just Blue."
Yeah.
And you have to be okay. She is the most loving and giving person.
And it's not harmful, right? Because some people use big personalities. Women use big personalities as an excuse to be harmful. The one thing I like about women like me and Myrna is we're giving you love that is so pure it can be daunting, but there's no funny shit. There's no projecting. You know what I mean? Because the girls who say, "I'm just keeping it real," but they're saying really fucked up shit. That's not what you're talking about. Those are hyenas.
No.
You're talking more about wild things like panthers and jaguars who are like, look, I love you and you're fucking up.
Yeah, it's like Myrna says, I know, like, not TMI, but like if Margaret, she would say, I know sometimes it might be too much. I say, you're only too much for the wrong guy. Right? Be you. The only way I'm going to learn how to love you as a partner or you as a friend is if you're unapologetically being yourself. Let me determine or make a judgment call, let me determine who you are, where I want to place you, into my life. And I just give people the space. I want people to feel safe, women to feel safe and to trust me. When women are it's a level of intimacy. When they feel that, the best parts of them come out. So you can judge a woman by the way she smiles.
Yeah.
How big her smile is, you can tell by the way her man or what her environment, how they're treating her. So it's
a big deal, Carlos, that you can do that. No, think about it. If you are an attractive man who has a job, who has industry access, you were good enough to make it to the NFL, you got a little bit of a coin, you got a cute little core, whatever. Like, it's very easy. I know niggas with a 10th of that list who walk around like they Big Dick Willie, right? And so fragile masculinity is so peacockish and so performative that when you meet someone who's just genuinely a good person who can actually stunt on niggas, it's funny to me.
I choose not to.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're not desperate for the validation.
So if I said, Blue, at one point in my life I was a fragile man, would you believe me?
Absolutely. Because you're attractive and bitches like that.
It's how I get here.
Yeah.
Like I was the guy. I used to post pictures with and then
Carlos got some abs. We got pictures on the Blue Centric website. If you go to bluecentricshop.com,
I ain't saying
there's a picture.
Landmine. I'm not walking across that one.
Okay, I'm just saying.
No, like it's like I can look at myself and see the opportunity and like
to be an asshole and the choice not to.
And now it's like, how do I want to lead? What's the definition of what a man looks like to me? A lot of times the definition of who we're put up on a pedestal, how men should be, typically, respectfully, end up being shitty people.
Yeah.
Right? But this is who you're supposed to be. And then it's like, well, why are people, surprised? Right? So like for me to be able to be in a relationship and have conversations, I haven't had friendships like this. Maybe one or two, and you played a big part in that because I didn't know what it looked like.
I remember the first time I told you were allowed to be mad.
I was like, what?
That was a big turning point because you were being toxically positive and you were being disrespected blatantly. And I said, friend, I love you and I think I love her, but that was fucked up and you're allowed to say that. And you're not any less of a good person for saying that was fucked up and you're upset about it. A hurtful thing happened, you're allowed to say it was hurtful. And I remember you just blinked at me like, huh? I was like, good guys also say when they're upset. And that's when our second rate conversation started.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what? Because I programmed myself. I've been programmed since I was a child to suppress everything.
Yeah.
And then make sure everybody else is okay. That when the disrespect is, I don't see it. Like there's some things I let roll off, but sometimes I didn't say anything because had I responded,
He's a Scorpio, y'all. He would have burned the whole house down.
it would have only so. Look, y'all say I have this way and I talk to people. I think I just talk to people. I just say things, whatever comes to mind. But I've had friends tell me like, yo, no, did you hear what you just said? I'm like, no, it was just regular. They're like, no. What you said, it cut me and you weren't talking to me. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
But I will hold receipts for a year, 2 years,
You're
3
such a
years.
Scorpio. Oh
and
my
when
God.
you
And we're back. Scorpios are petty. If y'all, you look, if Cancers are the crabs that are crying while they're stabbing you, Scorpios is who sold them the knives. Okay, like Scorpios are. My mother's a Scorpio. Half my family's Scorpio. Don't lie to me. Y'all are dastardly individuals.
my mom is a Scorpio.
Oh Jesus, you were a Scorpio raised
My
by a Scorpio.
dad is a Scorpio.
That's a disability, friend. That's too many Scorpios.
I was a
It's a
love
disability.
baby. I happened on around.
Two Scorpios have sex in Scorpio
So,
season. And another Scorpio.
I am a true Scorpio, and I see why my mom. I get them. I'm like, oh yeah, I get
When
it.
y'all go dark, it's 0 dark 30.
But if I was to share half the thoughts, a third of the thoughts, some,
Oh, no, I'm
some of the
clear.
stuff,
It's-
I had some thoughts today, and I was just like, and I was able to observe them, and I was like, Jesus Christ, yo, where are you? And I ain't gonna tell you who it was about, and I was like,
It's Kendrick's fault.
but I allowed I allow myself to be mad. I admit when I'm mad. I admit when I am upset. I've never told anybody. I tell my girl, yo, but that hurt my feelings. Mm-hmm. It's no longer vulnerability.
Isn't it powerful to be able to do that though?
And the bond when there's tension,
Mm-hmm.
that's when the bond really grows. If she can handle this, when my girl comes to me and says, "Oh, you," and I sit in it, and I don't respond in a way that she expects me to respond, the bond grows stronger. It's not happy moments and trips. Those bonds are strong too. But when we have those moments where there's one of a few ways I can choose to respond. I'm going to choose to be quiet and actually listen and let you be exactly who you are. Now, do that for me. And if it doesn't happen, I'm going to tell you and let you know, because sometimes we have blind spots and we're humans and we don't all...
Glorilla was your girlfriend's blind spot. So Myrna, we love her. She has to come on the show.
Yo,
We're going to do like a beauty
let me
expert. So Myrna was doing the video. It's 7 p.m. Friday. It's 95.
Take it down.
Carlos was like, excuse me? You ain't got no what now? Because
She-
ain't I that nigga? Carlos
She was like, yeah, I got a man. She posted the video. I said, take it down.
And she probably didn't expect that because you know when the nice guy says take
She
it down.
was
you're
like, no.
oh, shit.
I said, babe. I said, take it down. I said, because, and I never have the freedom to do whatever I want you to be free. She's Dominican from the Bronx. She
Yeah.
gonna pop off.
That's my
I said,
people.
but energetic wise, I want to be really mindful about what you and I put out.
Yeah.
What you put out. I said, because, and I told her this early on, I said, look, as men, when we look at your Instagram page, we can tell when you're happy. You ain't got to post a man. We know when you're happy because we know the content that you're posting. We can tell by the smile. Either you back in Jamaica.
Ooh, Carlos.
I'm just talking, boo. Like
Carlos likes to make fun of me because somebody broke my heart, and 72 hours later, I got my back blown out in Jamaica, and so he always makes fun of me like, "You're bounce back, I pivot."
Well, that was.
Yes.
He's scarred.
Wait, you think he's scarred? No, if
No.
he friend zoned me because he wanted to be a hoe.
It has nothing to do with
So
what you did.
how is he scarred?
I'm saying, as a man, when we hear certain things, then we know that it's our fault.
Yeah, 100% his fault. 100%.
That's the scarring. The scarring is the
yeah.
result of what we've done or what we haven't done. And we know when you fall flat on your face or something goes wrong, all those thoughts, you immediately know exactly what you did.
See, and had he had been able to say that, he and I could have still been cool.
And that's the part.
Had he simply just said that, we would still be cool right now. It's the fact that he lied in my face even after getting caught.
And that's the part where you're not really being thoughtful or understand who you're engaging with.
Or how smart they are.
I am probably more thoughtful and I pay attention. I've always, but I pay attention a lot now, right? If you understand who you're with, you should know, and it's a risk sometimes, right? And you have to know when your past or whoever's showing up. But if I was a guy and I was talking to him like, fam, if I was his homie, I'd be like, fam, I understand ABCs happen. I said, Blue's the type of person where you can go to her, keep it a stack, and you're probably going to be tired. And she might be like, "Word, man, I fuck with you." You know what? Because a lot of men aren't willing or are fearful for what the result may be. So they won't say things to keep things cool, but eventually the rubber's going to meet the road. You're going to be right back there anyways. So just keep it honest.
I wish more men acted this way, because I always say that when something goes wrong with me, I don't ever leave because things get hard. I'm built for things to be hard, right? I'm built for that. I leave when things become disrespectful. I can do uncomfortable. I can't do disrespectful. And so if somebody does something that hurts my feelings, I will have a courageous conversation with you. I'm not going to mince any words. You don't have to mince any words. We're going to keep it respectful, though. We can hash it out. I will actually respect you for being able to listen to me. And I'm going to actually listen to you, too, as well, to learn. Unfortunately, what I've met is people who don't believe that. They don't believe that it's possible for you to have an uncomfortable conversation and still be safe on the other side. So rather than wait for me to attack them, even though I never was, they attack first. And so now, instead of us being two allies trying to figure out a miscommunication, we're adversaries because you hurt me, and rather than feeling bad for hurt me, you hurt me again. Your response hurt me on top of the thing that you originally did. And the fucked up thing is, for a lot of women who are very secure, the second offense is worse than the first. The first offense was you being reckless and selfish. The second offense is malice. You're intentionally trying to rob me of my dignity because you're too much of a coward to admit that you fucked up. The second one is worse than the first one. That's what I wish more men understood. Even if I got cheated on, you lying to my face and trying to make me feel like it's my fault you cheated is going to piss me off more than her sucking your dick.
I mean, like it's...
A lot of women feel like that. Men don't understand that there are moments where they could have salvaged it had they just kept it a stack and improved their behavior.
Well, so I'll use myself as an example. If I'm not a cheater, right?
Yay! But I love that.
I've cheated. It was in my 20s though. I'm in my like it just feels, look, for men at a certain age, there shouldn't be a conversation that you shouldn't be able to have.
Exactly.
There should not be a truth that you can't say. And not telling the truth, it is cowardice.
It's like, a form of insecurity.
You might not like it when women say it, but that, as a man, I'm saying it. It is. Why can't you be honest? If you're 40 plus, 45, why can't you be honest?
If you're 30-something, you need to be able to tell the truth at your big-ass age.
Yeah, true.
I'm sorry, you can't be in your 30s with gray in your beard talking about I haven't figured out how to talk to the lady yet.
Why you got gray in your beard at 30s?
because it's stressful out here.
Because he lied.
Yeah, lie.
Not being honest.
The liars turn prematurely gray.
But honesty is what brings you peace.
Exactly.
Being able to be honest with yourself first, which is the biggest thing, and then being able to be honest with other people. Until you can do that, you won't have peace. That is what gets you there, and it's. I can go on and on and on.
I wish you would mentor more black men about facing how to take accountability. Honestly, on behalf of all black womankind, the number one thing I hear from most of my female clients is, he did all these hurtful things, and I stuck around because all I wanted for him was to acknowledge how much it hurt me. If he would just simply fucking acknowledge the impact of how much he hurt me, I would actually be able to let this go. But he's trying to get to the end while skipping the very thing I need to finally let it go.
If I'm deductive reasoning tells me, I know what I would tell a man. If I see certain behaviors or certain actions, the first thing I would probably say, outside of having a conversation, I would talk around the mother. That will be, and I would probably touch around the mother.
What do you mean?
I think a lot of how we treat women is an example of what we saw growing up by what our mothers allowed.
Absolutely. A lot of men have punished me for the sins of their mothers.
That is, look, I was dating my mother or anything that was the opposite of that. And I love my mother. That's a conversation, especially amongst black men and women and their mothers, that we don't really want to have. Mm-hmm. And it's not to get on, because I do believe our moms were doing the best that they could. But also sometimes, Mom, it could have been more. But I just need you to hear this. Sometimes when our parents can't put to the side their own feelings or acknowledge or invalidate your feelings, what message does that send to us? Me as a kid growing up, I could never express myself. When I lied, I got in trouble. When I told the truth, I got in trouble. So what's the incentive? For anything, I might as well not say anything. And these are things and behaviors that start to go into relationships.
Yep. And I think what breaks my heart, though, is that when you've, as a woman, have done your work, you've gotten to therapy, you've been introspective, you have guy friends who've kept it a stack with you, you have female friends who've kept it a stack with you, you've seen yourself through your mother's eyes, you've seen yourself through your father's eyes, you've confronted all these demons to be the best version of yourself. And you sit in front of a man at dinner on a date, and he immediately starts assuming you're somebody that he already knows. And he's wrong. But he's not willing to learn who you've actually worked to become. He's just trying to superimpose all the women that he's ever met before you. There is something so infuriating, not hurtful.
No, explain that to me. I've seen this happens a lot.
Perfect example.
Explain to me
I went on a date with a
what
guy.
does that mean for you, and how does it affect you?
Perfect example. I went on a date with a guy. His mother was a Taurus. He was like, "Oh, you're a Taurus. You're a bully." The number one feedback I get from my friends in relationships is that I'm not enough of a bully and that I'm too enabling. So I'm like, no, that's not me at all. I have problems, but that's not one of them. And then he starts saying things, and he starts jumping to all these conclusions. And every conclusion he's jumping to is something that I can tell he's saying passionately and saying as truth to himself. But to me, that showing up is the complete opposite. So if all he did was just pay attention, he would see with his own eyes that he was wrong. He never once saw me as who was in front of him. He saw me as who he was scared I was. And so everything he did was through the lens of who he was scared I was, while the actual me was showing up completely safe. And by the end, I said, you know, he was like, I played this all wrong. I was like, you really did, because had you just paid attention, I told you on our first date everything that you could do to avoid us getting here. And I can tell you didn't listen because you did everything on that list. On our very first date, I said, hey, I'm a straight shooter. I'm going to always be honest about how I feel. I'm not going to play games. No, I'm not friend zoning you. I like you romantically. This is the kind of men that I usually end up friend zoning. So please don't act in this way, because that's going to make me do the inevitable. It all happened within the first hour of us meeting. I had done my work so much, I showed up with a little dossier of how to win with Blue. Okay? I've been dating since the 90s, y'all, okay? And I've been engaged twice. How to Win with Blue is a small pamphlet that everybody gets in the first date. All he had to do was read the pamphlet. And whether we had worked or not, we could have still been cool.
But we don't trust ourselves, for one, enough to trust that. And
say the thing, friend.
We call it a neg, right? And it's like him calling you a bully, kind of trying to
negging me.
If you weren't a strong woman, that might work. No, well, what do you think? It's like no.
Yeah, I was insulted by the inaccuracy.
Like
I went straight to computer
but why
brain.
do you feel this need? Not asking you, but to break down a woman when you first meet them, right? It's almost you're weaponizing whatever growth or healing that you think that you have, but we don't really know anybody, right? Like we don't know with 100% certainty that this person is this. We're speaking through only our lens of what we've experienced or what we've seen.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
You listen to learn. He listens to manipulate, but they both look like listening until you get to know someone. That's the thing I don't think a lot of people realize, that just because you're listening closely doesn't mean you know what you heard. Somebody who's listening to manipulate is only listening through the lens of where's a pain point, what can I do, where do I feel superior, where do I feel inferior, how do I hide the two? They're doing math, right? They're not actually listening to learn. Someone like you who's listening to learn is like, oh, her eyes light up when she talks about her boyfriend. She must really love him. Oh, wow, she also really likes psychology and stuff. Ooh, that annoyed her. Wow, she makes very big expressions. It's easy to read this one. You're learning me, right? One person is experiencing me in the moment. The other person is figuring out how to manipulate me. And so those who are listening to manipulate don't realize that just because they were paying close attention doesn't mean that they were actually fully experiencing you. They might have figured out what they think are your pain points, but you don't also realize that I'm looking at you back and I'm not wounded. It's clearer over here. So when I'm looking at somebody through the fog of insecurity who's trying to manipulate me, and I'm on a first date through the clarity of internal peace, they think they're looking at me, not realizing that I'm actually looking at them even harder. Everything that I ended up thinking about him on the last day is what I saw a glimpse of on the first day and said, oh God, I hope he doesn't fuck this up.
Was it only one day?
No, we went on several dates. But I'm saying within the first date, somebody, male or female, gender neutral, somebody who was clear-headed and actually self-confident and not just conceited and performative, because they see themselves clearly and they're not worried about if you like them. They're worried about if you're compatible with them. I don't walk into dates hoping I'm liked. I walk into dates curious to see if I'm compatible. That's a very different muscle. Wanting to be liked makes you want to pander. Being curious if you're compatible makes you want to question and listen. So I'm not tap dancing, I'm not performing, I'm just trying to learn you, right? And a man is thinking, this must be a facade because she can't possibly be
Yeah,
the
we don't
self-possessed.
trust it. Because
It has to be an
again,
act.
if we're being honest, we haven't experienced a woman who's shown it. So instead of just celebrating or acknowledging it, you'd rather attack it
Yep.
and break it down. Right? And again, we don't have the tools or the skill sets or even to recognize, because just show up and actually enjoy the person, actually get to know them. It's literally like easy. And I know you or somebody like Mirna, you could sit back and be like, look, women have way more experience than men when it comes to engaging. Y'all can spot shit just like that.
But we also have misogyny on our tails on top of racism. So that second hound dog makes us a little, a little nippy.
It's like I knew that, but I'm gonna let you hang yourself. But
Yeah.
I spotted that because you probably 10, 15, 20, some women, a men a day are going to try something. So at some point, there's nothing you haven't heard.
I used to call him, telling him about the caliber of men that I was turning down because of how much I liked him.
Why?
Because I thought we were cool. I thought we had the kind of situation where I was being so honest and direct with him, and he presented like my nice guy friends. Because he has a lot of women around, so he knows how to present that way, that I mistook him for a familiar, like safe person. And I think the beautiful lesson in that is I didn't realize that I had been so sedated myself by the safety of my ecosystem that I didn't realize that there were wolves outside the gates. He was a wolf, but I had been almost like forgotten how to keep myself safe in the most basic way because I was around so many good people. And wandering off past the gate and having a wolf waste my time in that way, it actually was a gift because it heightened my discernment in other places. And when I clocked him, I also clocked friends who were similar to him. And I was like, that thing in him that is full of shit and is the reason why I'm probably not going to talk to him anymore, that exists over here too. And I realized there were other wolves that had gotten in. That's the thing that happens, and it happened to Drake, right? To bring this back to Drake. You get lulled into a certain sense of security when there hasn't been a threat for a very long time. It had been almost 8 years since I had let anybody be close enough to cause damage, which is why when an actual shark came swimming towards me, I thought it was a dolphin. Oh, so cute. That motherfucker tried to spit me back out. I was like, Jesus, this is not a fucking dolphin.
We have to stay where you lose what you don't use.
That's a great term.
When it comes to like fitness, you lose what you don't use. So if you don't, at some point, we were in emotional intelligence class. You got to get outside at some point because your body is going to take the influence, whatever your environment is. And of course, you don't want to be around people because you're never around people.
Yep.
Right? Like, so it's...
You've lost that muscle. Oh my God, the emotional intelligence class. Thank you for Carlos for bringing that up. I'm being such a bad host. Hey guys, Carlos took the Own Thy Shift Emotional Intelligence and Self-Mastery Workshop. How did you feel about taking it, Carlos?
I didn't know I needed it. And I thought that I was emotionally intelligent. I thought you would, hey, just come in and check in the class and just, you love having the conversations. And I'm sitting there writing notes and I was like, damn, I need this shit. And then one week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I was like, I still have more things I need to work on. I had a lot of blind spots, but I was clear on why, I was there. And it's honest, it's straight to the point. There's a lot of ego deaths.
Yes, there was a lot of ego deaths.
Bring your funeral clothes to the Zoom class.
Oh, but okay, ego death is a good thing, though, right?
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing. it's a death, though.
But it's kind of like watching a comic bomb on stage.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, you got to go through that.
Yeah.
And they don't know that they're bombing, but they keep going because sometimes that's what happens. And it's like, no, you got to, and you're the crowd. No, yeah, you got to deal with this. But it's the only way you learn.
Isn't it invigorating watching somebody, because this is the beauty of the class, is that you're in a space where you think you're only observing, but as you're observing somebody else have an ego death in class, and I'm workshopping something with them, you see them reacting the way that you act, but now you get to watch it in somebody else.
Oh, no, it's...
And you're like, oh, shit,
you
is that what I
can see
look
when
like?
they have the aha moment. It's like, oh. And then it's like every try to try to make, you're right there. Nope, you're right there. Like
wait, did you just call me the ops? Yes, I am Bluetooth your resident facilitator.
Every time but again, you don't let people get in there. No, I'm gonna hold you accountable to this. If you felt froggy enough to say this, let's do this.
Let's unpack it.
And there's something to be said about when it happens in front of people. It's not shame, right? I think there is a such thing. You could disagree. I think there's a such thing as good shame.
I think good shame is called remorse.
When it happens in front of people, and then because what happens is people are looking, people can learn, they're looking, but also at the same time, people ain't judging you.
Yeah.
You realize that it really ain't people. We all. It could
Like,
have been any one of us.
They understand what you're going through, and they're telling you that they are full of shit in a similar way to you, and they get it.
That's why, and that's another thing that you do well in the class is there's a good support system, and people actually encourage and support people.
Yeah.
Because that crazy thought that we would never say, I'm gonna have the courage to say it today, and usually the response is never what we think it is. This pitch, I forgot. What's the word you call it when people not daydreaming?
Time traveling.
Time traveling. I see.
For those who haven't taken my class, there's a thing we call time traveling. When you are triggered, you are time traveling to the past. When you are anxious, you are time traveling to the future. The only thing that's real is the present. And so whenever you've left your body because you've been triggered, it's because you're time traveling. Please come back to the present. That's some free game for y'all.
I told a friend this the other day.
About the time traveling?
I felt like you, and I said, stop it, friend, you're time traveling. And I stopped, and I was like, well, what do you mean? And this, that, and the fourth. And I had this whole thing. So now I'm seeing how the class has permeated into my life, how I spot things, even emotionally. I catch myself sometimes when I'm doing something and I respond a certain type of way. I have to catch myself like, yo, I had one courageous conversation we talked about, and it was interesting because it didn't give me the feeling that I thought it would give me. And it was okay. It just didn't give me, I saw like, oh, this person is still there.
But clarity is an improvement because at least you're clear.
Oh, no, yeah. I'm very clear on where you are, and which gives me clarity on where I am, and how do I want to engage when it comes to this, right?
How does it feel being a black man taking an emotional intelligence workshop? Because we've had an uptick in black men just men in general taking the class recently. And I always get excited because men are not often gifted with the opportunity. Why did I just sound British? Gifted. Well, men are not often gifted with the opportunity to actually open up in the way that the class requires of you. Did you feel safe doing it, or was it like wild to be so introspective in a group setting?
Part of it, you helped me knowing it was you. It was, but it's still this level of, should I say? Remember I told you one time. I said, Blue, call on me first. Like, don't let me be the kid that sits in the back of the Zoom, right? Call on me. Hey, Carlos, what do you force me to say and express, right? If I'm here, I'm going to be here. Right. And I think more men, like when you start to see more men being more vocal about certain things, and then especially when we have heart-to-heart conversation, I had this conversation with men all the time. Well, how'd you learn that? I went to this class over here.
Yeah.
This helped me with here. Like, I don't want to be the guy where it's like, hey, if you do it like me, I said, no. Like, I went through my stuff as well, but there were certain things that I did specifically to get to this point, right? And one of the biggest things, I cut off sex before I met Myrna, right? You talk about cleansing your palate.
Yep.
My shaman told me, he was like, yo, cleanse your palate. He said, no sex. It's a distraction. Cleanse it. Then I got to this place where I wouldn't even get aroused, but if it was no connection, nothing would happen between. But in the span of that time that's when I met
The love of your life.
Myrna. Right, I met her in that moment, and it was also the most time where I did not trust anybody. I did not trust love. I did not trust people. I didn't trust anybody.
I'm happy that you experiencing a moment where you did not trust anybody correlated with you no longer having sex, because a lot of men don't realize, and I was just talking to Bridget about this the other day, that I very strongly feel from watching the men that I love in my life that there is a connection between sex addiction and porn addiction and depression in a lot of times in younger men, right? Because what happens is when you are in a state where you're depressed, but you're yearning, your body is yearning to be held, you're yearning to be acknowledged, you're yearning to feel safe and coddled and nurtured in a way that you're not actually getting in real life. The cheap thrill of sex is there's a moment of physical release that feels like a glimpse of the compassion and love that you're not getting elsewhere. In the same way they've been able to prove that when a black woman is irritable, that's how we show depression culturally. I think a lot of sexually reckless black men are also depressed. And so porn addiction is actually putting kerosene on that fire.
Absolutely.
When my cousin was diagnosed as schizophrenic, they told us he couldn't have his Bible. We said, Bible, this is God. God is amazing. They said, yes, to a person of sound mind, the Bible is amazing. To a person who's schizophrenic, it's a book of fantasies that they can disappear into. I think sex is the same way for men when it comes to depression, where sex, which is supposed to be something that if you're in a good space helps you connect, when you are depressed, porn and sex addiction is actually a way for you to disappear further into escapism. And so when you see Kanye doing those tweets and he's showing his wife with her body all out, and now there's people on TikTok who are claiming to be models, allegedly, who were supposed to sign NDAs to be part of trains that he was getting ran on his wife, allegedly. Very Diddy, so that's why I'm saying allegedly. When you're seeing stuff like that, you're recognizing that if he's a unmedicated bipolar man who is steeped into a porn addiction, it's actually feeding his mental disease even more. And we can recognize that in a Kanye and have all these like sessions of a male podcasters talking about, well, his porn addiction has been in his music all along. We should have known that it was going to devolve into this.
I hate
but then
that, man.
Men don't, there's a lot of men who see that in Kanye as the extreme, but don't see it in themselves. And I don't think it is a coincidence that every single time that I have found myself realizing that I was dealing with a man I could not respect enough to date, he also didn't have control over his emotions or his penis. I have not ever dated a man who had control over his penis who didn't also have emotional discipline.
Look,
Your eyes are the windows to the soul. Your dick control is the window to your integrity.
So-
okay? If you can't control your penis, I'm already questioning everything.
let me tell you about solid women. I mean, good women.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to look at how, when you say you're going to do something, do it.
Integrity.
They want, because integrity, and they're going to pay attention to your discipline. You've
Yep.
said it a few times. Myrna trusts me, and she said, because I know that you're not going to go out and do anything because I see how you do everything else.
Exactly.
You're not motivated by sex and women. Like, I get past that very quickly. But discipline-wise, like, women pay way more attention to that because I need to know if I can trust you when you ain't there.
Yep.
If you're not disciplined, if you can't stick and get up and work out or whatever it is that you consistently supposed to do, I know you're going to do it somewhere else over here. You ain't going to do it over here. So when discipline is a huge, 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 huge thing. And when you hear women, I love a man who gets up at 6 or 7 in the morning. Now, it doesn't have to be 6 or 7, but what they're really saying is the discipline for you to get up and do what you need to do as a man and get it done, that's what's attractive.
I love a man who can say no. Because a man who's always a slave to the good guy facade and therefore says yes to everybody while talking shit about them over dinner the same night, that level of dishonesty with the people that you claim and purport to love before you ever met me, I know at some point you're going to be talking shit about me as well. And so for me, if a man is always saying a false, charming yes rather than a sound, stable, reasonable no because he doesn't know how to be sound and reasonable, still say no, you're a slave to optics, which means you're a coward. When men are slaves to optics, they immediately are cowards because a courageous man says, I don't care how this looks for you. I'm going to do what needs to be done to take care of me and mine. So for me, every man that I've ever respected was courageous enough to call a thing by its name, good or bad. He wasn't perfect. I've dated men who used to be hoes. I've dated men who have been to jail. I've dated men who you would not think they had integrity based on their rap sheet, literal rap sheet, right? Mm-hmm. But if you look at the way that they move, they live and die by their word. I think the reason why I get along with street dudes so much is because they literally live and die by their word.
The thing about street dudes is that they're going to call it exactly how it is, culture, because that's what was needed for them to survive in whatever they were doing on the street, right? Like that's why people really need to start paying attention to culture when people talk about LA culture or Southern culture or Eastern culture. A lot of what we're seeing with Kendrick is just it's LA culture. They don't like BS. They're going to call cap on whatever, and then if you disrespect them, they're going to be right there. That's just the culture of what LA is, right? So when I look at people, when I understand somebody's from the South of LA, I understand what I'm getting. Yep. And I really try to understand the culture with how they're raised in their environment, that they were raised with. A lot of people don't do that. Oh, no, you just over. No. You didn't know who you were dealing with from the beginning. Same thing for men. Understand when you're sitting at a table on a date, like understand who you're sitting there with. If you don't, why are you sitting there?
You know why he's sitting there? And this is going to be an unpopular take that's going to feel like I'm attacking the women. Let me sit up for this. If Tesla started selling on the black market for only $200, their price would tank in the legitimate realm because of the value being brought down. Because society has told so many powerful women who have happy, thriving lives that none of their joy or their accomplishments means anything unless they have a man. Because you could be talking to Cam Newton, who talks in cursive like he doesn't know what he's talking about, but because he has a woman who is at home with his baby, and you are single by choice, even though you've been chosen several times, all people can say is, yeah, but Dr. Joy ain't got no man, right? They can dismiss all your amazingness with that one flippant sentence. So because women have been socialized to know that being powerful is not enough for us, because it's unnatural for a black woman to be powerful, apparently. We're supposed to be powerful in connection to a man. So being powerful and single is not enough. We are still seen as losers even when we're winning. And the only way we're seen as winners is if we have even a piece of a man next to us. So knowing that I could be the smartest bitch in the room and nothing I've done means anything unless a man has chosen me, even though he's picking his nose like a dumbass, then that tells me then any man who gives me attention, I'm going to have to lower my value just to meet the market. And a lot of men get used to women who are operating from that scarcity mindset. A lot of the men that I meet have dated another me before. They've dated another woman who was as smart as me, who was cute, who was outside, who knew people, who was doing all the things. But because she didn't have self-worth, even though she had the optics of confidence, they were able to finesse her. And so when they see me, I'm not foreign. What's foreign is my dignity. A lot of black women have been talked out of their dignity for the sake of being reasonable and getting a man. And because my dignity has never been up for sale, the things that work on my archetype, I'm the first of my kind who it didn't work on, and that fucks with them. I had a guy once tell me, there's, 20 women for every one me, so, it doesn't take much. And it doesn't hurt that I'm cute and tall. And I said, it's going to take more than that for me, though, right? And he literally blinked, what? I said, that doesn't work on me because those women didn't have options, I do. And he got real fucking quiet. And I realized he was pretending he was joking, but he was actually revealing who he was. He was saying, I know that there's 20 of you for every one of me. And so I'm assuming that I'm going to get some grace. And I said, no, you're not. You're not going to get grace. I turned somebody down who makes more money than you literally 3 days ago. No. I chose you because I liked you. You're not even the best option on paper. Don't do that. Yeah. It got awkward. It got awkward real fast. What? Don't play in my face. Okay?
There's a space that you go to where I'm like, if I was a person on his show, I'd be like, don't do it. Don't.
But you know who you getting.
I'd be, don't you?
What? Why are you gonna act me like I'm regular? We know I'm not regular, Carlos.
I know this.
Okay.
Look, there's some. We had a conversation about, and I want to say this. There is. How can I say this? I think there is a specific type of woman sometimes men go after.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes which it's your right to choose, but there's somewhere there's a hierarchy, a power dynamic, or a vacuum where I can say and get away with whatever I want because I'm here.
Yeah.
Right, but what happens is there's a caliber woman that is going to work on. There's a select, you can call them Instagram women, baddies, or whoever the case may be, that's only going to work on certain people. So which means the thing that you say you want isn't going to work on them. So in order for that to work, you have to go about everybody or all the women that you complain about.
Yep. The woman that a man complains about often reveals the woman who he can get with the least amount of effort, and so that's what he goes to all the time. The default setting, if you're being cowardly, fragile, lazy, whatever word we're using for toxic masculinity, if you are a low-functioning man, your default is going to be who you always complain about, so you're telling on yourselves. If you keep on telling me that you keep on ending up with women who cry over you, who won't take no for an answer, who know that you out in the streets, but they still want to leave the back door open for you, and she's crazy, and I told her that, if you're telling me that's the kind of woman that you keep attracting, that's your default setting.
Yeah.
Because my default setting was men who pretended to be my ideal man because they were studying me and that my gates weren't high enough. So what I've learned is I said the right thing. I just said it to the wrong person. I need a higher price of admission.
And I think that's important what you just said, because a lot of people, when you give and you love and you give parts of yourself,
they devalue it.
A lot of times don't change who you are. It was just the wrong person. Don't let the next person have the results of whatever the last person did. Don't. And it happens a lot. I was that person, right? But sometimes that relationship or that person was a lesson that you needed to have gratitude or have appreciation for, the next experience.
The price had to go up.
Right? Like, so that's what I'm saying. It was like,
because Myrna's price is much higher than the previous price you paid, friend. All shade, all tea.
Look, she said, had I known about your prior, she said, you and I wouldn't have been together.
Agreed. I would have.
She said, because of how I look at you.
Yep.
So because of how I look at you, says everything tells me that I need to know about where you were. She said, I wouldn't even have entertained it. And I was like, huh. And
I love that women are finally admitting we have standards. I don't care what the statistics say. I'm still going to have standards. And I think a lot of men have thought to themselves, because there's more of y'all than us, we get to lower standards, and they're buckling at the fact that women are saying, no, we might just go gay or be single forever. I'm just not going to. I was joking about going gay. You can't just go gay, although you can do gay shit. What I meant was a lot of women are sexually open, so they have more than one gender option. A lot of women have really robust lives where they can take up lovers and stay casual until they meet somebody who's willing to be a good single partner. All the things that allowed your granddaddy to be a fuckboy no longer exist. Your granddaddy was the only one who could have a bank account. Now women can get their own bank accounts. Your granddaddy was the only person who could work. Now women can work. Your granddaddy was the breadwinner. Now women are actually the top breadwinners in their home. Like, all the manipulation tactics that traditional masculinity had bolstering it up are no longer things. And now I feel sorry for black men because they have been told by their father figures, their elders, oh, all you got to do this and shake your dick around and, look real good and put on some jupe and she'll be eating out the palm of your hands. They were taught by fossils a way of doing things that didn't age well. And now the caliber of women that they're being tasked with courting, who still want to be courted, by the way, are a species they've never seen before. I keep on saying this, black women were meant to crumble when they took away our men. We just mutated into a resistant strain.
I have this.
And we still need our men, though.
You may get on me about this.
We still need our men.
I used to have, like, when I listen, and I'm speaking in general, not what you're saying, I always tell women, like, don't get, like, I understand what women deal with when it comes to masculinity and patriarchy. Like, I feel like sometimes, like,
we do it to ourselves, too.
Don't get so caught up on what men do. Create and set the standard for yourself. Because sometimes, like, because you may be able to exceed. Like, I get where the comparing comes from. Like,
well, it's the reaction to the standard, though. I think what happened is a lot of us set the standard, and we kept getting a certain reaction that blew our minds.
So that's why on some, like, as men, I need to be like, no. What she's saying is fair. Like, that's where men need to show up. Like, yo, like when people talk about Dr. Brown, like, I don't like that men go and attack. Like, if you disagree or whatever the case may be, cool. But what is the real issue here? Do you have an issue with what's being said?
Yeah.
Or do you have an issue that is coming from a woman?
Exactly.
Which is it? I could guess or assume. Sometimes things happen, we respond because we did not expect her to stand up or say A, B, C, and D.
That part.
So when I listen to it, at that point, when I see that happen, I ain't gonna say I don't care about whatever, because now it's not even, are y'all actually listening? Because it's sound. It's correct. Right? I said,
are you listening to learn and process, or are you listening to debate and argue? Because a lot of people don't listen because they think they can be taught. They listen because they want to best you in a chess game that you didn't even know you were playing.
Yeah,
I went to the pub with another black man, and he cussed me out and told me, because at one point he was yelling, and the producer was on the phone with us because it was supposed to be a black man who was very, very conservative and thinks all gays going to hell and everything that's not cis, hetero, whatever is bad. Mm-hmm. And then me being the open-minded emotional intelligence coach and having a conversation. My gut said, ask the producer to have a prep call. We get on the call, and I said, hey, my intention of asking for this call is I just want to make sure that we get to know each other and we feel safer with each other so that we can both learn from each other on stage. He didn't agree to that. So the many people were like, yeah, bet. He was like, huh. And I think the minute I said learn from each other, his brain man was like, bitch, I didn't come here to learn shit from you. So as we're talking, I said, hey, can we just set some agreements that we're not going to pod during this prep call because I don't want to feel like we're rehearsing anything. Mm-hmm. We're just going to go over general beats. and any working agreements about boundaries that you want to set up front so that I know how not to disrespect you because I don't know you. And you don't know how not to disrespect me. He's like, well, give me an example. I said, well, if I'm talking, don't interrupt. Even if you disagree, when I'm done talking, I will totally listen to you and whatever you have to say in response. Just make sure that you're listening and not interrupting, and I'll do the same for you. He immediately says, well, I know you don't want to say what you're going to say on the show, but here's what I'm about to say. Already dismisses the fact that I asked for us not to pod prepping. He goes into an entire speech about how all homosexuals are going to hell and all black men who are raised by their mothers are pussies and gay and all types of crazy shit. And as he's talking, I'm listening. And when he is done, I say to him, well, I just asked that we not pod, and you just told me the entirety of what you plan to say during the taping. So I just want to call out that request was denied. And I'm acknowledging that because that's what just happened. I'm still going to stick to my part and not tell you my responses. I'm just curious, though, do you think there's anything you could learn from me based on how you just spoke? And he said, no. Why would I ever think that? I'm a man and you're a woman. I said, what? He said, I'm a man and you're a woman, and if you understand Abraham. And I said, click.
It's not funny, but I know your response.
Say what? Like, you don't think there's anything I could teach you? Nothing. And so I said, well, if you can't be taught, then why am I? Because, okay, well, I thought we were going to have a dialogue. He starts interrupting. I thought you said you weren't going to interrupt me. Well, I'm going to set a rule myself. I said, you can't set a rule by breaking the one I already said. Like, I hung up. I called the producer. The producer sat on the phone with him for 10 minutes. The man cussed at the producer for 10 minutes. That rage has nothing to do with me. I barely spoke. That level of fragile masculinity, though, where I'm going out of my way to say, hey, I want to advocate for both of our safety. What do you need for me to make sure that I don't want to intentionally disrespect you? I want to make sure that we feel like we're both learning from each other. I'm never going to interrupt you. For me to have coddled him that much, and he was still waiting to become violent the minute I had the audacity to not sound impressed. I didn't even say I disagreed. I just didn't sound impressed.
How does that affect you when you do engage with men, or do you look for that immediately when you're dating? Like, you know, so once it happens, like how does it, as a woman, like how does that affect you dating or engaging with men?
It affects me the same way it would affect you if you were around a rich white man. The exact same way. Where you might have a rich white man who you're very fond of, who you do great business with, who you can see yourself building a future with, but you know he's incredibly fragile, and society says he's superior, even though you know you are probably smarter than him. That dance that black men do with white men, black women do with black men. So you understand the dance. It just suddenly becomes foreign when you're on the other side because you're used to being oppressed, and it's hard for your ego to ingest that you could be the oppressor. That's what's tricky for black men is they're so used to doing that dance and using all those exact same muscles with white men, but when they become the white man in the room, because now we're both niggas and so it's patriarchy rather than racism, a lot of men don't realize that they've pivoted to the other side of that table. And so the things that they could nuance explain about racism, they suddenly ask confused when it comes to sexism, even though it's the same privileges.
I have a movie for you that you should watch.
What?
It's the is it League of Extraordinary Negroes?
I think I saw that with the guy with the little fro.
Yeah, and it's really about how we do everything to make white people feel comfortable, and then we assimilate. Like
And then at the very end, I think a woman's doing it for men.
Yeah, it was actually, somebody told me, it was actually quite, and then I looked at myself, I was like, huh. And then Mirna watched, she was like, yo, do we really do that? And I'm like, yeah.
But it's survival. It's not fear. We could literally be murdered. Whenever a woman is pregnant, the number one person who's liable to kill her is the person who got her pregnant. The FBI has been reporting statistic for decades. The number one killer of pregnant women is the person who impregnated them. The number one killer. Not heart attacks, not diabetes, not breast cancer. It's the person who got you pregnant. So when men say not all men, my response is, okay, but those of you who do a lot. Right? Like misogyny literally kills us. So it's not like, oh, we are man haters. It's like, I don't want me loving him to have me end up on Dateline and my mother having to give an interview to Leslie Stahl. And so it's not a thing of, oh, just be, more confident. No, no, no. It's actually like unsafe for us. So it's not like I don't trust men. It's that I love men and I want to stay alive. And so as a woman who is healed, I'm constantly having to figure out what part of this is opening up my heart and what part of this is keeping me safe and how can they overlap.
I'm understanding that now.
It's our literal safety. It's not us being hysterical. It's our literal safety.
Because we hear it, but then when you're actually it hits different when you're dealing with somebody who expresses certain things about, as women, we worry about this.
Like being killed.
I know you love me.
And you might kill me.
But they're still in the back. Well, I wouldn't do that, right?
No, but like statistically speaking, yeah.
But I'm getting insight to how women's brains work. Like, I still have the worry. You can do all the things. I'm still going to worry. Are you going to be here to help me support this child or do this? Like, I'm going to go through all the things. And sometimes there's men, oh, man, what you tripping for? And it's like, no, it's just how women's brains are wired. They're going to worry about all these things. Like I told you before, my friend was saying, like, hey, a lot of men break up with women. She was saying a lot of her friends. I ain't going to say, but I don't know the numbers on that.
Maybe we have to wrap this up. Hit it.
All right. Mm-hmm. I don't know the numbers on it, but she's like, a lot of men break up with women because she's too emotional, she's this, and a lot of men can't handle or sustain. She's like, we worry about that. And she's like, and I was like, really? I said, who breaks up with somebody that they got pregnant? It didn't
you have good guy
compute
privilege. You have
in
good
my
guy privilege.
in my brain. I was just like, I didn't know that it was a thing.
I want you to come back one day when we have I don't want to say a toxic masculine, but maybe a man who's a little bit earlier in his journey. Because I do feel like there's power in us showing men talking to each other about these things. Because everything you said today, there's somebody out there watching who, if I had said it, would suddenly get mad. And we have to be, and same thing with women. There's some things that I could say, but if you said them, people would be like, wait, what?
Yeah, there was a couple things, and I was like, not like, but that's important. That's why we always say, like, hey, women, when y'all see other women stepping out of line, that is for y'all. Check that.
We have to check each other.
Call a spade a spade. And for men, it's especially now, I don't know this new age masculinity or who we think are, we have to start calling shit out. You don't got to do it public. I don't like all the public stuff either. Yeah. Pull somebody to the side, be like, yo, boom, because sometimes the public doing it publicly creates more of what you don't want.
Yeah.
And everybody can't, and if you know they got ego, they have issues around the ego, you know they ain't gonna handle it well publicly.
And that's the problem. I think that's what full circle what happened with Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Kendrick was listening to his community, he was listening to his culture, and he was looking at the big picture. Drake was surrounded by yes men who didn't respect him enough to tell him no when he needed to hear it. And that's what, I think this is the biggest lesson of Kendrick and Drake is what happens when you think that you're bigger than the community? What happens when you are on a mountain top by yourself and are not tapping into the people around you? So learn from their mistakes. Well, by there, I mean Drake's. Learn from Drake's mistakes and do better. Carlos, please tell everybody where they can find you because this was so fun. I hate that we have to wrap this up. Hit it.
No, yeah. You can find me on Instagram, Soul's Purpose, SOLSPURPOSE. I'm only in TikTok, Soul's Purpose, SOLSPURPOSE. That's it. Only 2 social media sites.
And you'll see him on my page. And I also want to say, for those of you who want to take our On That Shift workshop that Carlos took, I'm so proud of you and the work you've done. Please go to OTS25. That's OTS is an On That Shift 25.eventbrite.com. Registration is open. Class opens up back in May. That's wow, that's around the corner. So we are actually doing a winter class right now, but if you want to join us for the May class, please go to ots25.eventbrite.com, and there's currently an early bird discount. Carlos, thank you so much. You have to come back.
No,
we have to do another Humanized and Fit Buddha collab.
No, anytime. You know, I got you. So it's good for me to have these conversations with you and open up. You know me, I will not come outside. I'm Homer Simpson in the bush.
You got Scorpio problems. I appreciate it. I got Scorpio to leave the house.
I'll be back.
I love you.
All right,
bye.
Peace.